We're going to get started. We've got a hard stop at 6 o'clock because the city council has another meeting at 6 and then another one at 7. So we do need to get going. It's listed as an open house, and we do want to talk to you guys, individually in an open house style, but where I know a lot of people have probably similar questions, I just wanted to do a quick overview of the widening project and hopefully answer some of the questions that a lot of you might have. Real quick, just a way of introduction, I'm Matt Robertson, I'm the city engineer, and we do have some of our staff, Jack and Jennie and Mayor Shuman, and council members, Jason Hadley and Karen, Boss and Greg Montgomery up here as well. Introduction, so you know who to maybe talk to once we go to the open house. Over here we've got Jeff from Pineview, with Pineview Water, Matt with Bona Vista, and Kenny right here with Bona Vista. Greg Siegmiller with JB Engineers, he works for Bona Vista and Pineview. Brian Fife, Greg also does work with Western. He does work for everybody. Brian Fife is our Public Works Director at Harrisville. And then over here we have Carrie Rasmussen. She works for ESI Engineering. She's talked with some of you. She does public involvement. ESI Engineering is the design firm doing the roadway design for the project. And then we have Shannon Wixom. She is with Avenue Consultants and has been hired to do acquisition. So for the temporary construction easements, she's been reaching out. I'm sure some of you have heard from her. She'll be reaching out and meeting with each property owner along that south side of the road where the impacts are to discuss payment for temporary construction easements and other items. And then Jolene Otley is with UDOT. She makes sure that we do all of our acquisition stuff correctly. And then Cody Peterson here is with ESI Engineering, the project manager over the roadway design. So I wanted to, I know there's been a lot of info with the different stuff going on out there with the Bona Vista water line, the Pineview options, and the city project. And I'm going to give just a really quick overview of the city project, the widening project for West Harrisville Road. Might not be able to see great, but whatever. You can see the screen here. There's nothing too exciting here, just a bunch of boring words. So, okay. So, first of all, the West Harrisville Road widening project, the purpose is to provide for vehicle turning movements, provide shoulders and bike lanes, and increase the roadway capacity. It's to improve the safety for motorists and pedestrians. You'll get into it and see that, but we're doing that by adding center turn lane to provide for left-hand turn movements, and the shoulders and bike lanes on the will help provide a space for bikes and then for that right way turn as well. Doing that can kind of get those vehicles making those turning movements out of the traffic lane, which is safer, and it helps with the capacity of the roadway. We know that the road can get pretty busy at times, and it's just going to increase in the future. So this has been identified on the city transportation master plan. I'll get into this in a minute. And it's also been identified in the regional transportation plan for quite a few years. So the plan is to widen the roadway from, at least our project that we're proposing to do, is widen the roadway from about the church, so about North Harrisville Road, to the railroad tracks. Once you go west of the railroad tracks, as you know, the road is already quite wide, almost all the way to the city boundary. It'll provide for 11-foot travel lanes, that 12-foot center median or two-way left turn lane, 2-foot buffer, and 6-foot shoulder or bike lane. So to do that, we're widening. We're not doing anything with the north side of the road as far as curb and gutter and sidewalk. That north side of the road, the curb and gutter that's already in, is remaining there. And then the widening is 15 feet, about 15 feet of additional asphalt on the south side of the road, in addition to curb and gutter and sidewalk. There are some drainage and utility improvements that'll be completed as well. There's some new storm drain that has to go in for the roadway improvements.
Just for clarification,
Yeah.
you said 15 feet of asphalt.
Sorry, from the
plus,
edge.
plus curb and gutter plus sidewalk maybe?
Yeah.
So you're talking maybe 20 feet plus to the south?
So it would be, so if you go to edge of asphalt, right? So the edge of
Right.
the current asphalt on the south side, about 15 feet of, you're right, 15 feet of asphalt, 2.5 for curb and gutter, and then a 7-foot sidewalk.
So over 20 feet into
Yeah.
the
So
yards of the people on the south side, correct?
Yeah, I'll get into that. So,
25 feet. And so pretty much the entire yard?
so here, this might help if you can see.
No, you can see that.
Okay, and like I said, let me try to get through. Let me try to get through the information, and then yeah, we'll have time. You guys can ask questions, come up and talk to us, come and look closer at the exhibits up here. So yeah, but good segue into what I wanted to talk about. Here's the existing lane or the existing roadway about, and then this will be the future. So what I was talking about, the 11-foot travel lanes, the 2-way left turn lane in the middle, and the shoulders. So if you look at the existing roadway, this is the south side, obviously, and that additional widening is being proposed on that south side of the road. So it will go to. Currently, you have about 34 to 36 feet of asphalt, I think, on there. The overall asphalt width will be 50 feet of actual black asphalt. We did try to minimize that as much as we could while also meeting the needs and the purpose of the project, which was to increase the capacity of the roadway and make it safer. Originally, this 50 feet was a few feet wider, and we did bring that in because we recognize that the impacts on that south side of the road are pretty drastic compared to what's been there for years, right? So there are the benefits I mentioned is providing more turning movements. You also have the opposite lanes. There's some separation in between, so that minimizes the potential for head-on collisions. There's protection for the left turn lanes, like I talked about. Sidewalk will be provided for pedestrians, so you can have a safe route down that south side of the road. And then you also have space on the shoulders. Let's see. The timeline, just to give you a little background. So this project has been identified in the city's transportation master plan for over 15 years. As far back as I could find in my record. So in 2010, LTAP performed a transportation master plan, or put together a study for the city. They identified this stretch of roadway as a project that needed to be completed to help with the future capacity of the roadway. Again, in 2015, another firm, Transportation Engineering, did a study. Same thing, identified this project as a need for the city. And then again in 2023. So 3 different firms that were hired by the city to do their transportation master plan all identified this roadway as as a need. And once that need was determined, then the city looks and, okay, we have a project that's been recommended for the city. How are we going to fund something like this? And so they started applying for funding through WFRC, which is the Wasatch Front Regional Council. They have a certain amount of federal funding through their surface transportation program. And in 2019, their application was approved for funding. So 2019 is when the city did get approval for this project, or funds were set aside for this project. It's been pushed a couple of years. 2019 is when the application was approved. It was originally scheduled for 2024. We're obviously now into 2026, but WFRC has been pretty good about working with cities and moving projects around. But this is just to kind of show that, yeah, this project has been on the city's radar for quite a while. And now here we are trying to get it designed. In 2024, the environmental document was approved, which looked at any environmental impacts that this project might have. Determined that there weren't any significant impacts environmentally. In March 2025 is when the roadway design began. And then, as you know, in August of 2025, we worked with Bona Vista, let them know, hey, we have this roadway project coming in. If you are going to replace your water line, you'd obviously rather have that before we put down a brand new road than after. So they came in this last fall and replaced the water line all the way down from the tracks all the way up to the highway here, and then of course down West Harrisville Road. And on the south side of the road is where they replaced the water line. And then in about April, is that about the time frame we're looking sometime?
Possibly sooner. That's going to go out to bid on the 22nd. Bid
Okay.
opens the 22nd of this month.
So possibly sooner, okay. So Bona Vista and Pineview have both received a permit from the railroad to replace. So Bona Vista would be replacing or installing a new line, and Pineview would be putting a new line underneath the railroad tracks, which will obviously help with the Bona Vista's capacity. And then, as you know, most of you got the letter from Pineview. That'll open up this area of the city to the possibility of pressurized secondary water. So those, the boring project is going in ahead of our project so that they can get in and do their work and whatever roadway work they need to do before we come in with the roadway construction. These are estimated, of course, the last two. So our plan on the roadway, if everything, if we can get everything buttoned up and ready, get a contractor on board, would be basically the summer to construct the street widening. Let's see. Okay, so as you, I mentioned that probably some of you that live on that south side of the roadway probably some of you have had some outreach from either Carrie or from Shannon. So the temporary construction easements are necessary to tie in the driveways. So anything outside of the city right-of-way or the public road right-of-way that we need to do, we need to get a temporary construction easement to go onto the property and tie driveways or whatever back in. So that amount that we need to go onto properties is identified. Shannon will be meeting individually with each property owner. At that point too, that she'll be able to show, hey, here's the impact, here's how far back we need to go on your driveway to tie it in, and here's the, the amount that we can pay you for that construction easement, as well as cost to cure items. So if you have spent money on some nice landscaping or something out in the public right of way that has to be removed from the widening project, then we can pay you for those improvements.
So is that going to be contracted to be put back in, like the fences?
So that's a good question. So that would be, if it's necessary to construct our roadway, any restoration, like tying back in the yards, any sprinkler restoration or anything like that, tying in the yards would be the responsibility of our contractor. If there's we have to pull out a tree, we'd rather pay you the money and give you the option of relocating or putting in a new tree yourself, or just keeping that money.
How about the fences that have to be tore out?
The fences, so that can be, I guess, an item for discussion. I think we prefer to pay you for that and give you the option of hiring a contractor and putting that back in, and we pay you enough money to do that. But she'll discuss, is there anything else to add to that, Shannon? I guess you'll discuss each impact with each property owner.
Yeah, so far we've been counting for fencing in our ACE appraisals.
Okay.
So right now the assumption is that we would pay each owner to put the fencing back in themselves.
Okay. All right.
So we get bids to put the fence in and give.
I've been getting bids and
the one
putting
that we
together
got-
estimates,
The one
but
that we got in the mail is nowhere near what it costs to put the fence back.
okay. And we're open to looking at your bids as well.
It's got the wrong amount of footage too.
I don't know what's been mailed out as far as.
And it's only the area that gets impacted that we're not the whole fence.
Right. So Yeah,
You know, you're talking about specific things, but when that road goes through and it takes property and moves it back closer to the home, it's not just going to be the value of that smooth strip of ground that's affected, it's the whole property evaluation. And so will your appraisals account for that, or are you just gonna be looking at the 10 feet or whatever you're talking about?
so, and one thing you'll see here and to understand too, is that the public right of way, so the historical deeds, we've had a professional land surveyor look at the right of way width all the way through there. He's met with, and you can laugh about it, but
As well
he's
as the
met
county.
with the Weaver County surveyors. They've all sat down and looked at the historical right of way, all the deeds, and it's a 99-foot right of way. Obviously, we're not using that whole 99 feet. We all know it was the old highway before the highway went in, and it was a 6-rod right of way, which is 99 feet. So the established public right of way is 99 feet. Some of the property descriptions may go past an overlap, and you can see that on some of these properties, and you can come up and look a little bit closer. I want to get open house. Shannon, sorry, did you?
No.
Oh, sorry. But that'll be cleaned up, like the right-of-way documents that get recorded can clean that up and show where the right-of-way line actually is. But the surveyors that have worked on this have established that 99 feet as the right-of-way. Yeah,
I disagree with you. The survey that we had to get for our property was filed with Weaver County. Harrisville City did not acknowledge it for some reason. We had to give an additional $2,500 filing from the same guy. The same guy came out and pulled the same pins, laughed at me, and said, "Why do I have to do the same survey I did 3 months ago to sell the piece of property for us to get a building?" So just what Ron DeFries said, he'll have to get another survey because his property description is changing legally.
right.
So that you're opening yourself to a legal
So they're,
box of worms.
yeah, and I mean, sorry, I'm not a professional land surveyor. I didn't do the survey work. I'm just telling you what the surveyors that were hired to do the work came up with.
Well, it doesn't
As
meet
a
the
historical-
legal, it doesn't meet the legalese,
But
does it?
the other thing is what they found is that there were surveys that have been completed, since that 99 foot was established, that arbitrarily put, a right-of-way width that didn't agree with the historical documentation. So I know, yeah, I'm not trying to argue with you, because I know I've seen documents that say, oh, well, it's this here, it's this here. And when there's, like, what they have to do is go back and really determine, I guess, what the historical right-of-way width is. And if something that's come in since then and established something different, I'm not sure. Cody, is there anything else to add to that?
No, that's well said.
No, it's well said.
Yeah.
Well, and it was
I
well
mean,
researched.
it's not awesome, right?
Right.
But it is what it is.
Right.
I guess with that, what I'm wondering is, they've been resurveyed, are they replotting the land to adjust the property taxes for those that are losing the land that they've been paying taxes on for eons?
Yeah, so the couple lands that overlap, those will be reduced, so you're not paying taxes on something you.
And then the value of
Shouldn't
that
be
property
paying
to that
taxes.
reduction,
And
how is that
that-
being compensated?
And that's the question I was asking. It's not just right of way.
Right.
It's what it does to property
Because we've
evaluation.
been paying taxes on that
How
specific
much is my
value, how are you not
property going to
compensating
be
for that?
worth that?
Yeah, so, I mean, and we're talking about, how many are on there? 3 properties? We're talking about 2 properties.
What do you mean two?
So
Yeah,
there,
your hips
only
you'll
two.
have to come up and look at the diagrams. We're only talking about 3 properties that overlap into the,
They go all the way to the
established,
There's some-
city right of way. Everyone else's property already ends at the city right of way.
So when did this 99-foot right-of-way come into play?
I think it was 1856.
Then why doesn't it show up on my map on
Well,
my
that's what I'm
survey.
saying, some of those things have been erroneously done individually for individual property
So what
owners.
do you mean by that?
The surveyors didn't do the research.
Yeah,
What, say what?
The surveyors didn't do the research.
So which
So I
document
had-
takes precedence?
So when I had my survey done twice, it didn't show up, and you're saying that they did it wrong twice?
Did they look at it? Did they do
I
the
mean,
research?
if we had to make a judgment tonight, I would say yes, they did
Where
it
did they
wrong.
get their information from?
I don't know where your surveyor got their information from.
So you're just saying that this survey was done, and this is what you come up with?
This is what professional land surveyors and Weber County and UDOT have come up with.
So is Jones and Associate a professional or not?
There.
Yes, but they were
Okay, then
involved
they
in
did
this.
it twice.
Wait, we surveyed your property?
It was, or sorry, it was Gardner.
Yeah, I was
Gardner
gonna
is-
say-
I was gonna say, I don't
Sorry,
remember doing anything.
Yeah.
because I'm thinking about you.
Thank
So
you.
it's Gardner.
You might not want that.
Gardner, our professional land surveyors.
So are you saying that they did not do that professionally?
I mean, am I under oath? Like, I don't,
Well, that's kind of.
I'm friends with Gardner Engineering. I'm not gonna say anything bad about what
But
they
when
do.
you said doing it professionally,
Yeah.
Well, they may not, right, have found the same documentation, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And when they're doing it for value, sometimes the surveyors don't go back to the, to research this far. Otherwise, they charge you a lot more. But when it's just for value and it's gonna help you, they will just do whatever they can with the knowledge that they know.
so when I purchased the property, they did it?
Did they?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know who it benefited, and we don't,
Well,
we're
the
not
second
hard
time,
that,
the
but.
second time was when I put my fence up on the frontage, on the front. It was done again, so that I made sure that there wasn't any.
By the same surveyor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so he's gonna go
They're not
back to
gonna
what
go
he had
against
done,
the word.
what he had done before, right?
I don't know.
Right, he's gonna go back to the survey he prepared for you before and make sure you put the fence where
He was a professional, so I'm assuming he did it right.
Yeah,
So, specifically speaking on a house that was built in 1884, it's well over 150 years old. The property originally, and we have deeds dating back to show it, owned halfway out the road, including, matter of fact, it's that corner right there next to that house that has white all the way around it, that owns halfway up the road. That house was originally part of the
Oh,
house
this
to the
one.
east of it. Yeah, that's my house right there.
Yeah.
The one to the west of that one, that's my grandfather's house. And the house that I live in was built in 1884. The deed to that property originally owned halfway out the road, around the entire corner right there,
Yeah.
including West and North Harrisville Road.
yeah, so that, the surveyor found, I think that's the
That's what
property
Matt
we was
was
talking
talking about.
about yesterday.
Mhm.
That if you go back, he said if you go back several surveys on that specific property, that it listed the property description to the center line of the road less, and then it said right in it less the county right of way.
Right,
Or
so what I'm
the
getting
county
at
right away.
is,
So the descriptions-
he sold the house to his daughter, my mother-in-law, and he kept his property, obviously, from his wife's parents, who originally owned this house, and that's why his property still shows halfway out the road. When the deed transferred from him to my mother-in-law, the city took their right-of-way halfway out of the road, and all they said is they took halfway out of the road. Based on that, the deed that she still has would say she owns up to the road. You're saying that you're not gonna pay us for the property that is part of the right-of-way. You're saying that right-of-way is inside where our fence line is, and that's like 10 feet off the road, 15 feet
Right,
off the road.
right, right.
So you're not gonna be paying us for 10 to 15 feet of property that we were told to be owned based on the deeds originating to the house.
Right, because based on where the historical right of way line is. And
Because they're
right,
saying
I'm
that
not
The
they're
saying-
historical
taking
right-of-way
it.
line, we own
The
halfway out the road, because there wasn't a road there back in 1884, not like it is now.
Mhm.
Did you
So,
not exist in 1856?
They owned halfway out the road the entire way through, that's how roads worked back then.
Right, a lot of old properties, right, own out to the middle of the road, right?
Right, on both sides.
Right,
Minus.
and then there's, right, but then there's a prescriptive, right, like, I mean,
That's not
For-
99 feet, that's for the
Sure.
width of the road for.
yeah, no,
traffic
I
to go
understand, I
through.
understand. I'm saying, I guess that, if I understood the surveyor correctly, we can, when we meet individually, like with each property owner, hopefully we can answer these a little more.
I'd love to
and
sit
we
down
can-
with the surveyor.
Right, and we can get with the surveyor and try to get these questions answered. Cause I didn't personally do all the research, right? Somebody else did.
Right, well, you're talking to us now, so
I know.
Unfortunately, you have to answer all our questions.
I know, it's fine.
So, that's not really much of an answer, though, that's all I'm saying, because, I mean, that's 10 to 15 feet of property that we were all under the impression we owned. So,
Right.
and not to mention, with the way that you're taking it, especially for my grandfather's property right there, you're gonna be putting sidewalk not even 15 feet off his front steps to his house.
27 feet.
To the front steps of his house, no, it is not.
Is this
25
one?
feet off that
Is
road.
it this one right here?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
I've got the dimension here, if you want it. Because that one is the closest house along the whole stretch, right?
Right, taking
It
25
is-
feet off that frontage right there puts him,
Well, I can show you. It's 26.8 feet.
yeah,
from-
that pink line's the back of sidewalk there?
No, sorry.
That's the
That
right
pink
of
line's
way.
that 99-foot right of way. We're not going all the way to, sorry, and if I wasn't clear on that, I apologize. Those improvements are not going all the way to that 99 foot.
So where on there's the sidewalk gonna be, the
It
back of the
says-
sidewalk?
Yeah, it's this black line right here.
7 feet.
Okay, but that's not what you said. You said 25 feet.
So if you wanna, here's the existing asphalt line right here. You've got about, and I don't know what it is, it varies of course up and down the road, but you've got, maybe 13 to 15 feet of asphalt widening, a 2.5 foot, curb and gutter and a 7-foot sidewalk. So that's a little over 20 feet, but that leaves about 27 feet from the back of sidewalk to the front porch.
So, and then the other thing as well is you said, somebody had said that paying to replace fences, and she had said that, there's no fence there that they're gonna have to be replacing the entirety of the fence for. It's just gonna be the section where the approach is, if I understood you
It's
correctly,
what's
whoever it was.
impacted, right?
So,
Yeah.
he's got fence going through that entire piece right there,
Yeah.
that middle portion.
Right, so he would get paid for what needs to be removed from the project. If he, right, cause he's got.
And is
he's
that
got
gonna be
this stuff.
resources and labor that included in that? Cause he did it all himself. That could be resources and
Yeah,
labor.
right?
It's fair market value.
So, and I wanna address, I know we're like, I do wanna address something real quick. Sorry, you've had your hand up for a while, this probably falls.
I'm
through,
good,
so
I just
you're
did,
good.
I had one more.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I wanna talk real quick about something.
Yeah, has the city, state, or county filed moratoriums on the property?
More moratoriums?
You haven't filed moratoriums on the properties?
So,
Moratorium's the time where work can be done.
sorry, I'm not sure what.
It's the cease and desist, so these landowners can do something to their property and you can,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, we haven't filed any moratoriums. But we're, right, we're working,
they can change their property.
they put together these appraisals already, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and they're actively meeting with these property owners. I don't know how that works with you guys, if they go out and spend 10 grand on something in the next week, I mean, do they get paid for that? I don't know how that works.
It's legally their property.
Actually,
It's
in
not.
this case, it's not.
Because it's in the right of way.
Yeah.
It's not legally their
So
property.
Harrisville's trying to do you guys a favor by paying you for all the improvements that you guys have built over the right of way.
We prefer the property over what you guys are planning on building.
But not all cities.
But it's
do
not
that
your
for you.
property though, that's what we're
I've been
saying.
involved in many that have just
If it's
paid
not
it.
It's
our
not
property, why do we
deeds.
pay
We don't-
taxes
they don't
on it?
halfway
Why
out
is
the
it?
road.
There's
It's
only
part of
3
our
people
law.
paying extra taxes on it,
Yeah,
but
and
you shouldn't be because it's not your property.
We also.
All of our stuff is
What are the
not.
other
Right away and property ownership is not the same thing.
Yes, easement isn't the
I
same
don't,
thing.
that doesn't make any sense.
So, one thing I want to bring up real quick, that I want to make very clear with the Pine View and Western Irrigation, there's, these properties, are fed by gravity irrigation, right? There's the potential, as you know, Pine View has had their public involvement firm, whatever, reaching out and talking about the possibility of switching over to pressurized secondary water. Now, it needs to be clear that our responsibility as a city, like, we can't take away your ability to water, right? So, the whole point of them coming out and meeting with property owners was we wanted to find out, do the property owners want to switch over to pressurized secondary water? There's that option. It would obviously be cheaper now because we can do it as part of the project. So if there's interest, then that option is there. That is not to say that we're not going to restore the lateral ditches going to these homes, because legally we have to put the water back, right? So I want that crystal clear that we're not taking away anyone's water. We just want to know if we need to identify if anyone wants to jump on over to Pineview and get pressurized water, that we can do that at this time at a much cheaper, I guess, lower expense for the property owners. Yeah.
Concerning the pressurized water, you have to have any water rights to access the pressurized water.
So you have to turn, well, you can answer.
Yes, you would have to turn over water shares.
Water shares, not water rights.
Well, but the reason I'm asking is the person who sold me my house, which is well over 150 years old right now, sort of lied to me, and he told me that the runoff from the fields behind would cover my house, and he did not give me a water share. So I have no water share on my house. So I have to use culinary water, so it doesn't make any difference one way or another. But I was just curious, if I have no water shares, is there any way I can tie into the secondary water?
You'd need to obtain water shares.
You know how much they cost here?
How much?
It depends on the day and who's selling and who's buying.
How much? How much? How much? I mean,
Is
Charlie, you know how much the water share?
You don't know mine.
Huh? About 10,000 or so?
So can you have both for a $10,000
water share?
Pineview and the shares?
What was your question?
Can they have both? Can they have gravity and secondary? As long as they turn over enough shares
Enough shares
to
to,
be able to
so,
get secondary?
but hypothetical option, let's say you have 10 acres, but you only want to use pressurized irrigation on your home. So you just subdivide your home with the county where you have two lot lines, one for your pasture with the western irrigation, and you only want to water your home. So let's say you bring out at 3/4. We'd require you just to turn over enough shares to service that home, and that'd all be through the meter and all that, to where you know what your actual usage is, so you're not going over and paying X amount of dollars, even though we're on an allocation, we're not on usage rates yet, but the state's making us go to that by 2030.
And that'd be 2 acre-feet per acre that you'd have to turn over.
Where you can still use your gravity on your pasture, pressurized on your home, so you want to vice versa.
You can't use pressurized to do 2-3 acre fields.
You could.
They're gonna put a big enough line in to push that much water?
Yes.
We have a 10-inch line that would be serving the street with, and then depending on your acres, we have some calculations. Certain acres take a certain size, so like a 1 acre would be a 1-inch line, where a 2 acre might be 1.5 inches. And then vice, it goes up from there.
We go all the way up to 4 6-inch lines, so potentially yes.
But you'd run the line into the property, and then we'd be responsible to run it to the field.
I just want to confirm that I heard you right, that there will be a free flow water ditch still along with Pineview.
The only way that we would get rid of the water ditch is if enough of those property owners on the south side of the road switched over to Pineview, and then there would be no need to run the irrigation ditch. But if
And
there's,
that would have to be everybody
Yes.
though.
It would have to be 100%.
Every 100%.
No, because that's not necessarily true.
what's not true?
You could not eliminate that ditch along there because there's users on the north side, and there's tailwater that comes down across through there
So you have to account for the
that
tailwater.
runs all the way along that south side of West Harrisville.
So you could potentially, yeah, I mean, we could potentially allow tailwater to tie into the storm drain if needed.
We cannot put irrigation water into a storm drain.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot put storm water into an irrigation.
So, the tailwater eventually gets into 4 Mile, right?
Correct.
Which is the storm drain and natural.
Yeah, so it's,
That's fine.
you wanna get into that one?
No, not right now. So, but, yeah, like Gail said, if there, it would have to be everybody that came on board, right? And like, if there was that much interest to where that lateral ditch wouldn't need to be installed, then at that point, okay, we spend the money on getting undue connections and not the lateral ditch, but like, we can't take away someone's ability to get one.
But your fees are gonna be higher with pressurized.
Yeah.
Is there going to be stormwater going under the creek?
Under the creek?
Into the creek?
Into the creek.
So from any storm drains along the side of the road or anything like that
Yeah,
going
so
into
we,
the creek?
right, so we have stormwater tied in, so there's stormwater boxes down at the corner on North Harrisville Road. There's a line that just comes up, not very far, it comes up and catches one of the box, right?
So how about here on West Harrisville, are you guys gonna be putting in storm drains that feed into the creek right there on the corner?
Oh, right here?
Yes, anywhere around there or anywhere up
Yes.
West Harrisville?
There'll be a small amount, yeah. So the road kind of, it's got a break, so the east side kind of drains back towards the railroad tracks, and then there's a high point somewhere in there where it comes back. Yeah, so you have that curb and
So
gutter.
I mean, right here, is there gonna be a drain in front of
Well-
589 going into the creek?
I can't remember exactly where it's at. Remember where it's at? It's somewhere right here, right?
And that's gonna empty into the creek right there. So I could potentially have litter and stuff like that going down my creek, right along the side of my property.
Well,
Just as much as you would now, because
Yeah, the city-
the water's already emptying in there now.
right, the city's storm drain system empties into that creek. I mean, we've got our public works department is constantly dealing with that, trying to
So
clean that
it's
up.
just gonna be more, that's what I'm getting at, it's gonna be more.
Yeah, sure.
So,
It should be filtered.
it's not, it filters into my roots that go in right there, and I have to go out there and clean it all up. I've cleaned kiddie pools out of there before, so.
Along the trees along there.
Yeah, that property right there, at 565, the creek goes right down the entire east side of
It
the
opens
property.
up right back here, right?
Right there, and where that tree is and that approach is on
Yeah.
the east side.
Right.
So it's open right by those trees right there.
I clean buckets, just like he does out of the one, across the street from him, so I can attest to his statement.
Yeah. Out of the actual,
Creek.
the creek or the box?
At 554. Right at the intersection.
The drain?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, and before Charlie was there, I spent 25 years during the winter, because whenever they do snow removal, they clog up those anyway. And I destroyed my back for 25 years shoveling that out every snowstorm. So I went back all the way up West Harrisville Road.
Zach Loveland stated it was the worst one until we moved in.
Oh, really? The worst, like, problem
worst
area?
drain.
Or the worst?
It's the worst drain he ever dealt with, is that one right there.
Yes.
Have you decided if you move that irrigation ditch where it will be?
Yeah, it'll be along the back of the sidewalk. So we'll have to, relocate that to back of
So
sidewalk.
that'll take even more property.
Turnouts. We're not touching that.
And we're not taking any of those property.
I'm sorry, if it's on the backside of the curb? Is that what you said?
Sidewalk, so that you can access it, right?
Well,
You don't want it
sidewalk.
out in the street where,
So there's sidewalk, and then your curb, right?
Maybe show the typical section here, man, to see if that shows up.
it'd be run along here. Along that back.
Can you raise that up some more so people in the back can see?
So, that lateral ditch, that piping would need to be, I think it's right along the back of the sidewalk, right?
Yeah.
So that you can access your turnout structures right off the sidewalk.
So that's back into the properties again.
Yeah.
Now, look at the right of way
The
there.
right of way's this way, it's 12, from the back of sidewalk to the right of way line is 12 feet.
Just stretch right here.
You're saying you're still
Okay, we have less than 20 minutes before the next meeting starts. If you want to come up and get a closer look at some of these images, I'll put them up on the screen. We've got a couple of the same images over here. Yeah.
Have you looked at the possibility of, and the absolute necessity of that center lane or the bike lanes as a way to, and I don't have a dog in the fight sort of because I'm on the north side of the street, but I'm feeling for everybody on the south side.
Right.
And I was wondering if you've looked at any options for shrinking that, because living on that road for 30 years, there are a lot of roads in the area that are a lot harder to say take a left turn off of or to enter during the left turn. Have you looked at any options like maybe not having that center lane or maybe not having the bike lanes just to give them a little more breathing space between the sidewalk and the home?
Especially considering the lack of pedestrian travel.
Because they don't have anywhere to walk.
They walk on the right.
Sidewalk only.
I just have one, what are you accomplishing, because when you hit the railroad tracks, whoop, you're sucked back in.
But you
So
can't make it-
it's
right.
not increasing the traffic flow, it's not making it flow any better, because you're still bottlenecked at the railroad tracks.
At the railroad
And you know the
tracks.
power company is moving that power pole and then
They have to.
Have you discussed just having?
But, so it's still just one traveling in both directions.
Right, so you're not, what
So
are we accomplishing?
You do get some capacity from turning vehicles out of the roadway. It accounts to about 1,000 vehicles per day in additional capacity in that turning lane. When you get to the, hold on, I'm just telling you what traffic engineers say, all right? Don't kill me. So,
Maybe when Kimberly Clark is changing.
no. So what I'm saying is, currently, the traffic counts on this road are about 8,000 vehicles per day. Okay, in the future, and that's about a level of service C, which in our city, we try to keep our roads at a level of service C or better. So it's an A, B, C, D, E scale we're at. We try to keep them at C or better. The traffic studies and transportation master plans that have been done by other transportation consultants have identified that without any improvements to this road, within the next 10 years, it's going to be operating at a level of service D. It doesn't, to your point, it doesn't provide a ton of additional capacity, but it helps with the turning movement, the safety of the turning movement, and it does provide some additional capacity. So when they put in these improvements, it shows it going back to a level of service B or C. I can't remember.
Then eliminate the
So
bike
we're
lanes or
judging the whole
something.
road
So-
based on what happens for 30 minutes a day, is what you're saying. And
The
it
only
looks
time it
to
ever
me
backs up
like,
is the train.
Train.
Yeah, or Kimberly Clark, one of the two.
Do we need a bike path and
So those are options, like, the other thing with the bike lane and shoulder, it does give you somewhere to either park or to make a right hand.
Do you guys have plans for something coming in that's gonna pick up all that traffic?
The whole area. I mean, this is a collector road that connects from 89 to Major Arterial. It connects out to other collector roads in other cities. It's a cut through road that gives, the traffic projections are based on the whole region. It's not based on any development along the street.
But there's one fallacy that I'm spotting, and Gail was the one who pointed it out. If on the other side of the track, it still goes back to a two-lane, right?
Yeah, so
Then at that point, it won't make any difference on the total traffic flow on the
No,
road,
thanks for-
except for just making it a little wider and safer in front of.
So the intent, the long-term plan of West Harrisville Road is to have a consistent width from 89 out to 1200 west, which is our city boundary. And that consistent width would be this cross-section right here. We already have the asphalt width west of the tracks. It's not striped that way right now, but west of the tracks, we have.
So that's in the
that
plans?
width, yes.
Okay,
So
that
you would
answers my
have, you would have this cross-section all the way through Harrisville.
Yeah, that answers.
Except for the tracks.
Except for the tracks, but you can't make a left-hand turn at the tracks anyway, so you don't need a left turn lane.
But you're talking beyond the tracks.
Right. But it's not, right. You still say travel.
So are these changes just proposed changes, or is this like, this is happening?
So we're in the process of designing it, it's happening, so that the federal funding, and the design and the funding gets run through UDOT. That's why UDOT's involved, because they administer the federal funding. It's a city project, it's all these local government projects. It's a city project, but the funding goes through UDOT, so it has to be there.
So it's happening whether we like it or not, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to work on it, or I'm trying to work with you as far as the impacts and what we can pay you for cost of your items or something. Yeah.
Matt, I know you're doing your best. I just want a small clarification. I may have or may have not, but if you park in that bike lane, and we're saying it'll be more open parking, it's probably illegal.
And it provides some blocks of money. Yeah, so I shouldn't have said that.
Is the bike lane, is the bike lane, is the proposed bike lane a single line or a double line?
So we have, let's see, it's got the 2-foot buffer.
So it's a double like on
On
the picture behind you?
Oh, yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's also the active transportation plan that the whole region is trying to implement. This is one segment of that active transportation plan. Whether you like it or not, I'm not, trying to advocate one
Can you
way or
tell us
the
how
other.
the road that is going to grade down into our property, how that grade is going to look?
Yeah, I
Because
think,
it's deep.
right, because some of those properties drop off. So I think when we meet with individual property owners, I think we can show you how that'll work. So, because I can't speak to every property owner.
I mean, almost everyone's meter is 3 feet out of the ground.
Yes, that is,
It's a sore thumb right now.
I know.
Once you get material there, it's gonna mellow that out. Because it's standing there individually.
by itself, right?
Well, I'm bringing equipment out of there.
Yeah.
The trailers, and I can't have just a grade like you showed there on the picture. It's gotta be a continuous slope.
Right.
Which runs more into our property.
Which we're talking a couple hundred feet.
So there are design standards that we have to meet for the driveways. That's why these temporary construction easements to go back to the driveway. We're not going to leave you with some high point that you're dragging your vehicles on. There are UDOT design standards that we have to meet that show what the algebraic difference is between slopes. If you're coming up here, you got to go this far back so that you're not sending you off a cliff.
When you're 20 feet from the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're designing that. You guys want a chance to come up and look at any of this stuff?
Yeah, come a little closer so you can see it.
Yeah, we can send it. Yeah.
Is there any provision for those folks that have property or homes next, so close to the property line? Where is the spot where you would have to purchase the whole property instead of just making that?
Yeah, there aren't any identified on this street where the impact is enough to.
So you can have a road going right through your front yard,
The
basically.
closest we get is 27 feet.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
And you're justifying that as being great for the city.
It's a safety thing too.
Yeah.
Also, is the bike lane and sidewalk on the south side necessary? Because we don't want it, we don't have the pedestrian traffic for it. Also, are you gonna be putting in crosswalks for us to be able to cross it safely from sidewalk to sidewalk? Is that gonna be a thing too?
I mean, like I said, they're trying to connect whole regionally to bike lanes or active transportation, not only in our city but in other cities.
But what does other cities have to do with our city if it's not practical for our city?
Well, so you could potentially, eventually, have a bike route, and like I said, I'm just telling you what they're shooting for. Have a bike route that could go, take you all the way down, this road goes all the way down the freeway.
Who is they?
So, the regional, WFRC, like Wasatch Front Regional Council, they put a lot of these plans together, like regional transportation plan, regional active transportation plans. The state is pushing a lot of these alternative transportation programs, trying to get more trails, trying to get more connectivity that way.
Is it necessary for us to have the sidewalk and the bike lane on the south side? Or is there talk where we could say we don't want it here and you guys take it out of the plan? That's what I'm asking. Is it set in stone, or can we have a conversation about it and decide nobody on the south side wants either the sidewalk or the bike lane? Because I mean, that alone will free up another almost, well, right there, that'll free up another 14, 15 feet.
Right, it's also our responsibility, like I said, that
They've already got the money, they're gonna spend it.
Well, I'm asking, is it concrete, or, and I don't care
yeah, I mean, the
what
design's
they
pretty
say.
concrete. And
Okay, so we have
the
no
thing
talk
is-
about it,
so-
that's what I'm asking.
Sure. And we're looking at, hey, we're looking at, if we let a small group of property owners say, we don't want a sidewalk, or we don't want a bike lane or something right in front of our house, well then that messes up your connectivity to,
Right, but I'm asking for us as homeowners, not for us as business owners who are like, yeah, we want the connectivity, versus the homeowners who it actually affects on a day-to-day basis. That's why I'm asking, is it concrete, or can we argue this, or say we don't want it, and there's a way we take it out of the plan? We don't have enough traffic to warrant another sidewalk and bike lane. Nobody bikes through there, nobody walks through there. So with that alone, the sidewalk on the north side and the bike lane on the north side would be easily more than enough to have connectivity.
Sure, but maybe short-sighted of us, right, we're looking down the road as well, future, trying to connect these paths, trying to connect. I understand you don't want it right now. Okay, like this right of way, or this cross section has been discussed and decided upon.
The last time we came to a city council meeting, they told us that it was still in the planning phase and nothing was concrete. Yeah, they didn't have a plan in the last meeting.
You gotta understand, what was said, it was the design phase.
They told us there was no plans. We talked to them individually, we were told there was no plans for it, no funding was required, nothing. That's what we were told by the city.
Who would tell you there's no funding?
The city.
Alright, hey, why don't you come up, we're about out of time, if you guys wanna come up and look at me a little bit closer, then let's do that, right?
It's so good. It's so good. Like I know people are too Yeah, right.
So mine would be too big of because they're saying that's the easement right away. Because you think about it, I mean, here's the park, and then look how far back the asphalt is. So they're coming another 12. So they have to be coming on the other side of the
I've plowed your driveway years and years and years.
Oh, hi. Did you help me fix my snowplow? Yeah, right. It was like the first week I moved in. That was like 10 years ago.
We need to process it. I mean, it's not that bad, I guess, on that I wish you just feel like this is the bar. We'll just push this back.
That's not happening.
Have 625. I haven't had to cook the carport for the last 30 years. I'm down here. You're gonna be right. Not just think of that. You're gonna be right into that. And this too, or is that just that's not property?
Your house put it as far as the steps.
Yeah, flat one.
Yes.
This one, they don't care. My sister lives down on the rest of the road. They put that thing in her on top of the valley. Now, weeks people say, oh, we turn when we go that shit less. So every spring you can have on. That's right.
I drive by and I said, that's good. You're living my neighbor here.
You're right. You are right. No, right? This one, right? With this, no, this one with the garage in the back. The water box right there.
Right, that's basically part of the shop.
Whatever it is. Yeah, yeah. Put a little light on
If I can just get everyone's attention, my apologies, this open house was not long enough to address all of your concerns, but we have a 6 o'clock meeting here with the city council, so I'd encourage you to take your conversations at least to the foyer, yes, at least to the foyer, if not outside, and please make sure, yeah. Here's the cabin, here's the power pole. Okay. I hadn't seen it, Jen. I hadn't seen it like you don't know if it's real or not.
Okay, we're gonna get started on our work session. So we have a discussion going on about the PID. And Brandon, you're gonna be having the discussion with us, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, come on up and we'll start our discussion.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to stand and meet with you tonight briefly in a work meeting. I'm Brandon Green. I work with Flagship Homes. And we're currently the ones that are developing the old golf course property north of here. I appreciate what you do. Worked a number of years in city government, and I appreciate the mayor and council savings that you guys have to make. So thank you for giving me some of your time tonight to talk briefly about public infrastructure districts. So you know, we aren't looking for a decision tonight. This is just an informational meeting only. We are, the Lomond Heights development is seeking to create a PID, or a public infrastructure district. So I just want to kind of talk about what the purpose of a PID is and how it helps to benefit the city and the project. Start out with just an just the, the purpose of a PID, an overview, and define what a PID is and what it is not, and the PID process, and then any risks associated, risks or concerns associated with the PID, and then answer any of your questions. So, what is a public infrastructure district? It's a district created by the city. It's used solely to finance public infrastructure. It's paid for by property owners within the public infrastructure district, and it's a financing tool. It's not a zoning or a land use change. It's not a development incentive, and it's not city debt. So why do PIDs exist? You're good. You're all over. A PID exists to help large developments. They require major upfront infrastructure. Infrastructure is usually built years before property taxes or utility revenues begin. There's a timing gap. Infrastructure must be built before homes can be sold, and capital constraints are significant upfront capital costs. So, what's the purpose of a PID? Or how does a PID, what's the purpose of a PID? New developments need infrastructure. So infrastructure would be roads, utilities, stormwater systems, parks, trails. Everything must be built before homes and businesses can be used. The city creates a PID for development, a development area only. The PID only covers properties in new development. It does not exclude existing neighborhoods, or it does not include existing neighborhoods, excuse me. The infrastructure is built up front and is dedicated to the city. Developer, through the PID, builds the public infrastructure to the city standard, then dedicates those infrastructure or that public infrastructure to the city or the public utility district. And then the PID pays for the infrastructure over time. This is something that over a period of several years, that's paid back. And then the only people, like I had mentioned before, the only people who are in the PID are the people who reside within that public infrastructure district or within development that we are working with. Eligible for PID financing. So public roads, sidewalks, intersections, water, sewer, storm water systems, public parks, trails, and open space, street lighting and utility extensions. Those are all PID. They qualify for PID. Now, what does not qualify for PID? Private homes and buildings, HOA amenities and clubhouses, private driveways or park areas, private utilities serving individual lots, and landscaping internal to private lots. Who pays and who does not pay? Property owners, only property owners within the PID pay. Existing Harrisville residents do not pay. PID financing does not use city's general funds or city's utility funds. And a PID assessments do not affect city tax rates, utility rates, or bonding capacity. Why responsible PID structuring matters. Responsible PID design supports long-term success for homeowners and the city. It maintains market competitiveness with non-PID developments. It encourages faster home sales and lot absorption. It reduces the likelihood of future restructuring or bond stress. It aligns infrastructure costs with realistic phasing and growing, and it protects the city's reputation and future policy flexibility. Now, benefits of benefits of a conservatively structured PID. Utah state law allows for up to 12 mills to be collected. That's a lot. We are not requesting that for our PID. We're requesting a lot lower than that. Actually, 5 mills is what we're requesting. And I wouldn't recommend that the city go anything higher than that. There's some detriment to having a high PID. Obviously, the cost to those within the district is higher. If we get a cost too high, then our ability to be able to sell homes is difficult because of the added cost. And Excessive PID burdens can slow home sales and absorption rates, and slower absorption rates can increase financial stress within the district. So a successful PID is one that delivers needed infrastructure while remaining affordable enough that the market supports it. The pros of a PID: protects existing Harrisville taxpayers. Infrastructure is paid for by new development, not the city's general fund. Allows infrastructure to be built when needed, such as roads, utilities, stormwater systems, etc. It ensures infrastructure meets the city standards. We're required to build to the same standards that anybody else would be required to in the city's standards. It spreads cost over time for new development, and then it supports orderly and planned growth. What are the cons to a PID? Homes within a PID have an additional monthly assessment. If assessments are too high, homes may be less competitive in the market. It requires accurate assumptions regarding phasing, absorption rates, and growth. Market slowdowns can place financial pressure on the PID, and poorly structured PIDs can create misunderstanding if not clearly disclosed. We are required by law to disclose to all the people within the PID that they are buying into a public infrastructure district. And it's not only once, there are several times throughout the process of purchasing a home where the homeowners are notified that they are in PID. One of the questions that always comes up is, what if a PID fails? What happens? Who's responsible for it? PID bonds are not, or a non-recourse to the city, meaning they can't come back to the city. Bondholders assume their financial risk. The city does not guarantee repayment. The city is not required to raise taxes or use city funds. The obligations remain tied to the PID properties only, and financial risk stays with the development, not the taxpayers. So the key takeaways for this PID that we're proposing or we're asking is there is no taxpayer liability on current residents. The existing residents are protected. The city retains full land use and approval authority. There are transparency and safeguards that are essential, and the infrastructure delivered is delivered up front. And the PID policy is a tool, not an obligation. So we flew through that really quick, but I wanted to spend a few minutes, maybe talk a little bit about, discuss a little bit maybe what your questions are, and have some discussion on any concerns you may have. I provided a sample of what PID may cost in our development. For a home valued at $225,000, the taxable value would be based on the county, or the county's taxable value is 55% of the home value is $288,750. So if we apply a 5 mil PID assessment to that $288,750, it's a yearly tax of $1,443.75 for a monthly tax of $120.31. If you drop down to the $419,000 home value price, there's a taxable value of $230,450. 5 mil PID assessment of $1,152.25 for a monthly cost of $96.02. So that's what it would look like based on what we're offering up in our project up there, taking some home prices and our home sizes and applying this PID to that.
This is a calculation. We need to take pictures of this. It's just information.
I can send you, I'm happy to send you the information. It's nothing.
So the 5 mils on top, they're actual taxes.
So there would be a tax, your standard tax rate.
The actual tax rate would be like $2,500 a year plus the 14.
I don't know what the, yeah, but yes, exactly.
Yeah, just ask me. Jenny, can you go back to the pros, please? So the top one where it says infrastructure is paid by the new development, not the city's general fund. That's not even an option. The general fund won't pay for it anyway, right?
Right, your utility fund, your funds would pay for it. Or, well, it wouldn't even be an option. As new development comes in, developer pays for that.
Right.
And then as it turns over to the city, then the city starts maintaining that, right?
Right.
What we're saying is, we're gonna put in all this infrastructure up front, and we're gonna collect through the PID to pay the infrastructure cost back. It still gets turned over to the city. It's just, the city would not be paying for any of that.
Well, they won't pay
Right.
for it anyway.
Right.
That's not really a pro.
Question about, so I know that there's a lot of discussion that's gone on about housing affordability.
Right.
How does this affect what our goals are to create more affordable housing plan for raising the cost of a home by at least $100?
Right, and it's a valid question. Home affordability is a tough thing to try and wrap our arms around, because a lot of stuff goes into what makes a home affordable: the price of the ground, the cost of the infrastructure. And so we try really hard to make those homes affordable to the best that we can. Unfortunately, we purchased this project from another developer, and so our ability to make it as affordable as we can, we're trying really hard to do that, but we're kind of limited by what's already been agreed to through a development agreement. And so, to the extent that we are able to, yes, we're trying to make it affordable. I don't know, with the amount of infrastructure that's had to go in there, and we're talking power and gas and water and storm drain, all of that, that's a pretty heavy lift. And because of the uniqueness of that property, all of that upfront infrastructure had to go in before we could even do anything. So we had to get power from 2000 north down to Highway 89. We had to get water and storm drain through there. So that's the reason we're coming before you requesting the PID.
How long does the PID last?
The PID is, right now, we're slated for about 30 years. People would be paying on that over 30 years.
So the chances are the home is sold at least once, maybe twice during that 30-year time.
Yeah, I mean,
an average.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So I understand the PID continues on, and that has to be disposed by law.
It does.
It's under a PID.
Right.
What I look at is this is a balancing act for money up front versus the homes that you're trying to sell. So giving you money directly is a cost and effect. If we don't give you any money, the end result is the house is gonna sell for more, but you should have to be recovering your property or your costs. And I understand that's the game. So I look at my teeter-totter on my paper right now. One says PID, one says sales, and you're exactly right for the cost of what it costs for a home. Now, that affordability comes into this, we're saying that, but infrastructure has to be done first.
right.
Yeah.
In order for the subdivision to work, the infrastructure had to go.
Yeah.
But isn't it true that, like, if you have, in any development, you have to put in infrastructure before you start building houses?
Well, yeah, that's absolutely true, but the amount of infrastructure that had to go in for this.
Well, but I guess in my,
a little above and beyond what.
some of my concern of it is let's say that you take this from, and all my numbers are completely arbitrary and
Yeah.
nothing coming true. But
Absolutely.
so I go out as a developer and I go buy 110 acres or however many acres it is. And then I throw in, I'm gonna have to put in $15 million of my money to make it work. Where I'm gonna get my money back is when I sell my lots, right? So when I sell my lots, I've already put the infrastructure in. It's gonna go over to the city anyway, right? in most cases. The only ones I ever knew about that didn't go over to the city is when you had a privately held development where the residents were responsible for all their own infrastructure. An HOA. And so, you know, where it's all gonna go over anyway, almost every development that I was a part of when I was in the planning commission, those utilities went into that development and came back to the city, and now it's our responsibility to maintain it, which that's what you're saying. And so I look at this, if I'm an investor, is it a smart move for me to invest in getting involved with a PID? How much interest am I gonna earn on my money if I give you $10 million? You know what that is? It's because it's coming from somewhere, right?
What,
The money.
the money,
Yeah, because you need the money to put this infrastructure in.
right? Yeah,
So I can tell you, if I'm investing $10 million into your development, I want return on my investment. So I'm gonna get returns by collecting taxes. But how much additional do I get back? Because I don't want to get dollar for dollar. I want to get a return.
right. But we hear a lot from people when we come in and do that residents get tired of paying for other people, other developments coming in. Sometimes that may include you or the city having to raise your property tax to keep up with the infrastructure that we just brought into your city. What we're saying is, if we can do a PID, that, because that money's being paid back, it's not gonna be, the city's not gonna be having to, what's the word I'm looking for? These people are paying for what they're bringing in to the city, and other taxpayers are not having to help burden that or help pay that burden back. It's being paid back by the public infrastructure district, instead of saying, oh, we're gonna have to raise property taxes because we've got more infrastructure that we need to take care of. Let's let the people who are making the impact pay that back instead of all the city as a whole to pay that back.
Yeah, so I can understand that to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, if I've done my job as a planning commissioner and I've looked at the overall development, and I've had my city engineer come in and look at all, I'm gonna try to assess. I have 700 homes coming into my development. And it's gonna take this much sewer, it's gonna take this much water. All those things should have been looked at way before the development, right?
They have been.
So if we didn't do our job as a city to verify that is, then shame on us, and yeah, we're gonna have to raise taxes to make up on it. But if we have done our job, then the burden falls back on the developer to fund it, whether it be from whichever bank, or you got a bond salesman back here, you'd be happy to sell you some bonds. But at the end of the day, we could give you, you know, you're gonna try to get whatever the cheapest interest rate is at all, right? And at the end of the day, the developer or the landowner comes in, I'm gonna buy a $500,000 home. And it right up front, I know it's 500,000, I'm gonna be taxed exactly the same way as every Harrisville resident is. And I don't have to worry about paying an investment group for the next 30 years. And in reality, some of that stuff just seems not right with me, like with me. You're lucky that I don't have to vote, but at the end of the day, it doesn't seem right to do a PID for this. Now, some of the stuff that I've done looking into a PID, I could see possibly that a PID could possibly be used for a city to help fund infrastructure that we weren't planning on. Right, and then pass the PID over the whole city.
What is the infrastructure that you were planning on?
Well, what I'm saying is, if all of a sudden I had an earthquake and it tore up all my sewer lines and my water lines, and I had to go back and put them in.
Yeah, but then you'd apply that across the entire city, right?
Correct.
And you'd have to go out
Right.
to the entire city and ask for
and support PID. So, and then some of the other things that I wrote down, well, I put down who makes up the PID, you know, like the investment group. Imagine there's a board of directors that.
The PID is actually controlled by the city. The funds come into the city.
Well, if there's the taxes and then we pay it to somebody, who do we pay it to?
It goes back to pay
So are you guys taking out a bond to do it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing? So,
He's got some answers maybe.
Yeah, do you care if I, no, come on up, chime in a little bit, Brandon? Absolutely. Perfect. It's nice to meet everyone. A lot of new faces here. Marcus Keller with Cruz and Associates. We serve as municipal advisor to the city. So we want to definitely answer all your questions, and you've had really good questions. And I'm going to go ahead and preface this. I don't think there's any answer that I'll give that will say silver bullet. I love PIDs now, and I don't think that's what we ever want in this situation. I think my job is to say, are they essential and is it helpful to the city? And it's on a case by case basis, because I think all developments are different, all PIDs are different, kind of the ins and outs into the weeds of that. Maybe I can kind of just clean up just a few little things here I heard. So a question on who is the PID, what the board is and so forth. So it's the landowners. So the landowners would be the developers in the early stages, but then it would be by law dedicated, or the new board would be eventually the residents that move into that area. So the developer would have to move off that board. And then it would be run by the residents at that point. But it is important to know that once the PID issues bonds, assuming that it's created and issues debt, really the only decision that they have moving forward was if they want to refund those bonds and when they'd like to refund those bonds. The PID doesn't do any type of operating and maintenance. It doesn't own any assets. It literally is a shell to hold that debt. I think going back even a little bit further to some of those questions on the financing portion of it, the big difference between a developer getting commercial financing, especially when it comes to horizontal improvements, which are a very expensive type of financing, versus PID financing, is one, the PID can issue as a tax exempt. So those bonds do not have to pay federal and state taxes on it. So by default, they're going to be getting a stronger interest rate because the investors that buy those bonds are getting it as a tax exempt bond, versus if they were to get a commercial loan through a bank or commercial lender, it would be taxable. So that interest earnings would pay taxes on it. So the PID, why they are so popular, there's many reasons here in Utah, but one of the reasons because it is a cheaper source of financing for developers because of that tax exempt interest that they can get on there. Another reason they're very popular is because there are very few entities, without getting into too complicated of commercial or real estate financing, that want to even finance horizontal infrastructure. Many people that do it at very double-digit interest rate, whereas PIDs right now, just to kind of put some numbers to it, are currently selling 30-year limited tax general obligation bonds, or the type of bonds that they sell through a PID with a mill levy. They're selling it at 6.5 to 6.25 right now, and that's even after rates have gone up. So there are a lot of advantages to that in the form of the financing. Now, I think from a city council's point of view, if I were sitting in your position, I would also be looking at it as a fairness and equity standpoint too, right? For the people that are moving in, having to pay a higher interest rate within that development. But I think there's got to be a little bit of a balancing act there. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the infrastructure. We could talk about impact fees and different things, how they pay arrears and so on and so forth. But kind of keeping it simple, one of the things I heard was affordability. You know, there's a lot of different ways we could kind of talk about that. I mean, if we wanted the most affordable thing ever, then we could say, well, why don't we just let the developer build, 5-story condos and apartment buildings and so on and so forth. So there's kind of this affordability scale and a quality scale, whereas, the quality goes up, maybe the affordability goes down, and then vice versa. As the affordability goes up, maybe the type of development you want and the quality goes down. The PID really is designed to be kind of a balancing act
So that, you know, if there is a certain quality type of development that the city's wanting within their community, but maybe it doesn't pencil quite right, the PID kind of helps balance that back. So it's allows the developer to get those cheaper financing tools in place so that it makes sense for them to build what the city's wanting. And that doesn't necessarily mean the type of unit. It could mean maybe more commercial space, maybe a larger park, maybe bathrooms, maybe stuff that the city's wanted to make sure gets put in there, but kind of makes it economically efficient, right? If you're looking at that. So that's just some of the reasons people or other cities and counties have approved it. At the end of the day, you know, it really is, I'm kind of the opinion, because I see this a lot throughout the state. I don't think PID should be used to make a bad development pencil. I think they can be used to make a good development great, if that makes sense. So it could be used in that form as well.
I understand, you know, so as far as, I guess, true benefit to the developer, and I do believe that, you know, that we do need to have new construction and, you know, paying for it, so we can't burden everybody else with that. But, it just to kind of allow you to go in and get everything done rather than build in phases and be stuck in this forever.
Exactly, and I think that's also one thing I didn't mention in affordability. It allows you to build more, which is gonna bring more supply into the market, which is gonna make the market more competitive across the entire city and the entire area. I'm not sure if you've ridden in other parts of Utah, maybe even pre-PID at this point, but basically we see so much piecemeal, right? You see subdivision after subdivision, nothing kind of matches, nothing looks good, is because really only the biggest developers with the deepest pockets have the money to cash flow so much of this stuff. And everyone else was kind of having to do it, like I said, 10, 15 units at a time. So it's important that
So
way.
where this has been sold multiple times because of issues, what's the alternative to a PID?
So the alternative to a PID, I mean, is really just kind of a pay-as-you-go type thing. So what we've typically seen this, and because we talked to lots of developers, is, you know, if they were planning to absorb maybe 200 to 300 units a year because they now have all the infrastructure in place and they can just go vertical as quick as possible. It's okay, we're gonna have to do this in like phase now 1 through 10. Let's do 50 now. After those sell, then we can do our next 50, extend the line after those sell, and then kind of skim the cat that way, you know.
Right, and then we have to deal with interest rates and cost of material and all of that.
Well,
changing.
and they're racing against inflation. You're
Right.
exactly right. So now that house that if they could have done it in years 1 through 3 at $500,000, now if they're in years 7 through 10 on the last phase of their development, trying to put it in, that same house, maybe $600,000 through.
Not affordable.
And no additional profit or anything, just cost of supplies, right?
Right.
So again, like, I'm here to answer your questions. Like I said, I don't think any of us are ever gonna be singing kumbaya about PIDs, right? It's never gonna be that way, but again, I think it is worth at least considering and looking at and understanding all the facts so you can make an educated decision as a city council, whether or not this PID is a good PID for your city.
So is there any mechanisms to keep from double dipping?
Yes.
You know what I mean by double dipping?
So the biggest mechanism is gonna be through the governing document that you approve. And when you typically, when I hear the word double dip is, you know, to make sure that they're not taking more than the city anticipates for their projects, or basically, you know, if you're thinking, gosh, they have this much capital infrastructure, how all of a sudden does the developer lining their pockets because X, Y, and Z reason? And maybe it's that kind of what you're alluding to.
No, I think what I'm alluding to is that if I'm a developer and now I got better interest rates on my money because I have a PID.
Yep.
Right? I have these lots that I've had out there, and I look at the market and I go, well, this is a 1/10 of an acre lot or a 1/4 of an acre lot or whatever size it is. And I typically sell that for 185, but now my cost actually went down a little bit. But the resident that buys it is, he getting hooked with the full market value of the lot plus and get strapped for 30 years to pay an additional tax on top of it. That's why I'm talking about double dipping. You paid more upfront than maybe you should have, and then you're paying an extra tax that the other residents don't pay.
I think one thing I would caution is trying to set any rules or limitations on the selling price of the homes. There may be already as part of the planning and zoning, some type of affordable housing requirement in there, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But if we go down that path, I've seen it, the best advice I can give on that is the houses that aren't part of that are always gonna sell for whatever the market dictates, right? And I'm not gonna try to lie to you to say, yeah, I think the developer's gonna give him a nice $10,000 discount because he knows he's get a PID in place, right, for some cheaper financing. But as city councils, I think it's important for you to see that is this money being used to enhance this development or to make more supply come onto the market to hopefully drive prices down within your community? And that's probably the best and, strategic answer I can give to you on that, because there's kind of a slippery slope if you go the other direction. Yes, sir.
So one of the questions that I actually asked when I was on the other side, where you're standing here, but I've never received an answer to. There's a large number of PIDs that are going on all throughout the state. Do we have data that shows benefits that really were realized from those PIDs? Because those PIDs were granted versus, does that make sense? And so, I mean, as a business owner, I would want to be able to see how is that balancing act working? Are we really achieving what it's ultimately designed to be, or are we seeing more problems than there are really the solutions?
I think the best answer to that, again, in my opinion, the way I view that is we've seen historic supplies getting pushed into the Utah market, where now we're kind of at a tipping point, which we think may eventually start pulling back on home prices, because now we have a ton of new supply. And I see these Zonda reports all the time with developers. Lots of new supply. That's not even, counting people just trying to sell their existing homes, right? And that's starting to bring this, if you look at like a 3-year draft, and maybe I can bring one or send that to Jennie to share with you guys, you see house prices just almost go vertical, right, over the last 3 years. But now they're starting to really round out. And I'm not ever going to say that they're going to dip, and I hope that's never the case, but what we saw the last 3 years is unsustainable. And maybe you guys disagree with me, but if we could start seeing just level, 3-5% increases on our homes every year now, I think that would be great, not necessarily for us that own homes, but for people trying to get into homes. They're unattainable at those current increases. So that's what I've seen from personal experience, is just the supply has really started to affect this huge increase in prices that we saw over the last 3 years. Did that answer your question, or at least give you a little guidance? Yeah. I'll see if I can find some from some of the reports we see. It might be more we're seeing a lot more in Salt Lake County area, but we'll see if there's something for Weaver County as well.
So I have a kind of a two-part question.
Yes, sir.
Have they been in existence long enough to have a track record of do people default on it?
Yes.
And
There
at
has
that
been.
point, then how is the claim made to get the money back?
Yep.
Does the city become responsible then, or the county become responsible then to collect in back taxes?
No.
Oh, sorry, it's recent. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's not something we ever like to see, but eventually you are gonna see a default on these bonds, because in our market, like when we help the city sell your sales and franchise tax bonds, those are called strong credit bonds, great credit, strong, the city's credit worthiness is great, so on and so forth. PID bonds are much different, because usually it's raw ground, and so they're betting or speculating on that growth. So what we've seen recently is there was a default, and everything worked as anticipated. It was actually a special assessment bond. It went to foreclosure. The person that owned the bonds came in, took over the project, and now they're selling it to a new developer. And so that worked out. Limited tax bonds are a little bit different. And, I just want to go into a little detail on that. So let's say the developer team only builds 20 houses in there. And the rest of the development, let's just say we have a crisis, nothing else gets accomplished. The best thing about these bonds and why I actually, think positively of them in a lot of ways is because it does protect the individual homeowner. That if you live in that development and it never gets up and going, but you're one of the first ones in there, your taxes can never exceed to pay for that bond, that max mill levy that's approved as part of that governing document. So in this case, 5 mils. So even if the bond goes underwater $10 million because it's just not generating enough revenue, there is no recourse for them to ever come back to you either through foreclosure, increasing property taxes, or anything else. That as you continue to pay that additional 5 mil levy on your home, even though the rest of the bond may be in default, you personally are protected from any recourse back on your property there. So it does provide protection for the individual user. Now, what typically happens is those bonds, typically the investors would try to restructure them, but it wouldn't involve a homeowner and they couldn't restructure based off a mill levy. They may just try to extend the term or do something different at that point. But at the end of the day, the homeowner's protected.
So even in a situation where the transfer takes place from the developer to the homeowners as being the control body.
Yep.
If the homeowners say, so-and-so, they're not paying their tax assessments. At that point, is it then the homeowners trying to manage collection of that assessment, or are you saying at that point?
It would follow typical property tax foreclosure rules. If you're not paying your property tax, you can't pick and choose which line item to pay. They would have, I believe, the 5-year property tax foreclosure, that point to make all their property taxes whole. The only thing that could be considered a term of default is if the PID did not levy those 5 mils. If for some reason the homeowner board came on there and said, hey, we're going to thumb our nose to those bond investors and we're not going to levy that, then the investor would sue the PID and say, hey, judge, you need to order them to levy that mill because that's what they promised. Even though it's just 5 and maybe it's just a drop in the bucket for the bonds, as long as you levy the mill rate, then you're not in any form of default, even if it doesn't cover the full bond payment.
Now, where does the city fall in that? I mean, like you said, the city takes over. We're the ones that run the PID at the beginning.
You do not. That was inaccurate. The city has no involvement after the creation of the PID. It's a separate local or legal government entity run by the landowners as the board.
And so financially, the city is not responsible, period, right?
It doesn't show up on your audit. You're not responsible for any type of default, any type of judgments, any type of anything like that. So as soon as the PID's created, it really does act as its own independent local government entity. So, sorry, I didn't want to clarify that, so.
That's part of our meeting, but you need any more questions? Hopefully you got your answers. Okay. You good? Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, we'll go into the next part of the meeting. We're 4 minutes late. The next part of our meeting is we're gonna do the ceremony of oath of office for all those that were voted in this last go round. We're gonna do it independently, individually, right? Am I doing first?
Yes, Mayor first. Stand up here. I'll be. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Roger Shuman,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Thank you.
If Mayor Shuman's family to come forward and we'll take a picture with your family, whoever is here for Mayor Shuman. Watch your step on your way up. You don't trip.
That won't make you say cheese, but you have to smile. Yeah.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jason Hadley,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite anyone who's here for Councilmember Hadley's oath of office to please come forward and we'll take some pictures.
You guys can sing. Here we go. Sure.
One more.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Greg Montgomery,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity. Thank you.
I'd like to invite anyone here for Councilmember Montgomery oath of office to come forward for pictures.
Come on, Eric.
No, no. That's not you, Tom, that's not your back.
You gotta slide over, I'm sorry, the camera's not that wide. Yes.
Okay, here we go. One more cap. This cap. Good, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So we have about 3 minutes before we'll get started. And then we'll try to get started right at 7.
Yeah.
I forgot to slow down when you first.
I know it's been a long time ago, but I just thought. I can hear like more than you've been voting.
Then work once. Hey, everybody.
Well, it looks like the 7 o'clock bell has rung. We'll get started. Welcome, appreciate you all for attending. I'm now the new sworn in mayor, Roger Shuman, so my first item is the call to order. And then we'll first have the pledge of allegiance performed by Councilman Christensen.
All right, you all please rise.
Keep the pledge of allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening. We meet here together, city council and citizens of Harrisville. We're grateful for all the citizens that join us and come and participate. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to serve this beautiful city. Grateful for the opportunity we have to be free, to have the freedom of speech, that we do enjoy in the United States. This time we have to be able to discuss the things that are on the agenda, be able to talk about those things that are pertinent to that. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Next item on our agenda is the oath of office. Chief Wilson, taking care of.
Like to invite Officer Van Meekum and Sergeant Bowers up.
Will you raise your right hands and repeat after me, please? I state your name.
I, Tom Bowers,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Thank you.
Anderson, you guys want to come up? That just. It works better if you just slap them in. You guys, well, good thing about here in the route. Sergeant Bowers found them up for pictures with. Officer Van Eaton's family. Because what he was his.
Yeah, feeling that.
We got some good filters, we can.
I could have Detective Keller come up.
Yeah.
This is kind of a not necessarily unexpected thing, but I'm not working with these police officers for all that long, and then I get assigned as the mayor, so I get the opportunity to present to you Detective Jason Keller as Officer of the Year, and that was awarded by the Fraternal Order of Police. So congratulations, Detective Keller. Chief Wilson. Chief Wilson, he was awarded the Administrator of the Year, also from the Fraternal Order of Police. So we'd like to congratulate Chief Wilson.
Mayor, would it be out of order for us to shake their hands?
No, that'll be fine. I'll probably ought to bring it up here. That looks good right there. So the next item on the agenda is a change from where it's at, and this is a Mayor Shuman change. Now, maybe by the next meeting, we might change it back, but we'll see. But I'm gonna have the public comment at the beginning of the meeting. Now, the purpose of the public comment is, number one, gives you an opportunity to express a concern or whatever you'd like to talk about. There may be an item on the agenda you'd like to talk about. Today, we don't have any public hearings. But if there's something that's bugging you, would like to hear about it. In return, I'd like to be, have you be respectful of the time. I don't know that, I'm gonna try to keep you restricted to 3 minutes. Try to express your opinion within that time. The next thing is, if there's something that I need to answer a question on, either myself or the city administrator will be back in contact with you. So we'll need to make sure we know who you are and how we can contact you, because in a lot of cases, we can't comment on what you're asking about right now. I may not know the answer, but one of us will try to get back to you. Is that clear? So, I'd like to open up the public comment. Do we need a motion? So, anyway, please come up and make your comments. If you don't have any, we'll move on.
Congratulations, everyone that got sworn in, and the councilmen, the police officers. That was pretty neat, and the awards that were given as well. I think that's great. So welcome to everyone. I'd like to first start with the open house that we had. Thanks for doing that. I thought that was good that we had that, so we're hopefully that everyone could try to address any maybe issues that they have. On the other hand of that, I think that there's a lot of things on the West Harrisville Road development project that did not get answered. I'm trying to go through my notes, but one of the things that I saw here, and I didn't quite understand, was the paper that is in the, agenda at the end, and it has partial numbers. I tried to connect my partial number with any one of those, and it's, anyway, confusing to me. And so I didn't know where we stand on that. As far as, any values or anything, there was some things that I did, some questions that were answered in the open house, but I still have a lot that are not. As far as the assessments, I had a bid that was, given to me, that I had my fence that'll be, needed to be removed and then replaced. That it is now what I understand is within that easement, that I was not aware of. So that's one thing. It's the numbers on that I'm sorry, the numbers I have on this paper doesn't even come close to what my bid is. The other thing is the irrigation ditch that goes along there on the south side of the road will need to be moved. We've yet to make a decision exactly maybe where it is or understanding. Just really brief in the meeting, it said it would go behind the sidewalk, which puts it back onto the property owners, still within that easement. So I need to find out how that works. If I could get an answer there, is, how that works on the easement. And then we have standards as far as western irrigation and if it's going to fall within those standards. The other thing that I have is the setback. We're going to be in violation, I believe, on some of these homes as far as the setback. I'm watching that too, Roger. Is that I think that we'll be closer than maybe what we should be. The other thing is I have a building lot there on my property, and how that setting the property back will affect that for a building lot. Thank you, I made it.
There you go. Hey, Marvin, on
Thank you
your
very much.
property, I believe it's parcel 118. And then to address a little bit of what you just brought up, this is an amount that not necessarily is set in stone from what I understood from Shannon Wixom. But when you meet with her, I would be bringing up some of that stuff with her, because more than likely they're going to be able to answer those questions much better than I can or Jenny can.
Well, thank you.
Is that fair, Jenny?
Okay. 5 seconds. So if there's anything to be approved tonight, I would just ask that it be tabled until we get these answers.
The numbers.
Thank you.
And I think they still have to go through with the rest of the residents. It didn't sound to me like tonight that they had made it around to every resident to try to iron out all these fires. So I think that there's still a bit of work to do there.
There's a lot of fires.
But I'll keep my eye on it the best I possibly can. And if there's something that I know about it, I'm happy to share it with you, okay? But
Okay.
I know it's in Clint's name, Clinton Brittany.
It's in Clint's, but I'm on there as well. It just. when
It
it
just,
comes up on-
from this one, it just shows Clinton Brittany,
Right.
but it should be 118.
It's because it's the way it is.
Well, we didn't put it on there because we don't necessarily want, we didn't really want it to be out in the public and everywhere else. So we have to be showing what we are, but we didn't want to publish it to a whole bunch of people. Okay?
Thank you.
And
I didn't think of that.
that was me and Jenny's decision on where we were at. We just felt like try to get keep a little bit of privacy there. And even though people can go and dig into it, but that's where we're at. But I have a master sheet right here. This sheet.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Appreciate the concern.
Name's Gary Robinson. My phone number is 801-624-8100.
I have your phone.
I know you do. Noticed that our expenses have been going up, significant for Harrisville lately in the last 8 years. And I'm really curious if there'd be possibility that the wages for every one of the public officials for Harrisville, it should be published on the board out here. It should be public knowledge what the wages are, what their wages are, what their benefits are. It should be what, we should be able to know how much it's going up every year, how much it goes up every year. And so the public knows. And I'm grateful that we're having the comments beforehand. When I left the city council 6 years ago, they made a comment that they were gonna publish the check register every month. They have not done that. That was a failing of the mayor. And they should, when council members and the mayor do their expense reports, they should be signed off on by 2 people. When a councilman submits his expense report, it should be signed off by another council member or the mayor. They don't do that unless they've changed it, which I doubt. There should be checks and balances by the council members and the mayor. And at one time, the police had to submit, where they were issuing tickets, and they stopped that about 8 years ago. And that way the council, had an idea of where the tickets were being given. So, you knew whether or not the police were overextending or whether or not they were doing a good job. And I think we need to look at whether or not the police should be taking their cars home. That spends a lot of extra expenses for the city. We're a small city. We need to cut down our expenses. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
You have my phone number as well? That's good. I'm just reporting back, and I think it's important, first of all, congratulations, for everything that's, happened today. I think that's exciting. I think, change is always good. We address it. Jan and I have had the tremendous honor and still do currently at this moment of hosting, senior dinners, and it's been fun, amazing. Our numbers have gone up. If I'm incorrect, Roger, you can tell me, they've gone up from 15 or so, and today we have 50.
Said 60.
Maybe up to 60. I was doing the kitchen back and forth. So it's exciting. It's fun. I think there's a lot of need out there that has been met as far as bringing out some of the seniors, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. My concern, we may want to down the road consider whether we have a teeny bit more. We've had different individuals say, I'll donate. But just maybe we might want to consider that, not right now, but just a little bit more toward feeding them. That's point one. My second one is, I don't live on South Harrisville Road, but I do think of citizens all the time and what's best. It was mentioned about the curve of the road and the drainage. My question is, when it drops off at a steep, and we've watched those meters so high, is that going to require a retention wall to be built there, a 2 foot, a 3 foot block wall in front of their yards? Or is it just going to slope?
there's gonna have to be some adjustment that is made in there, and if you look at 1200 west, I believe it is, the road that used to go in front of Walkwood.
Yep.
If you look at some of those properties that, go past the new subdivision,
Familiar.
then you'll see some of their roadways of how that road was widened, and then you see some have rocks, like that they put in around the driveway with dirt fill coming back from there, and then there's also block, like cement block that was stacked up on the edges. I invite you to just kind of go down through that, but that's what I'm seeing is probably gonna have to happen on some of those properties. Now, with that said, it's federal money, and the state DOT's in charge of a lot of what's going on there, so I can most certainly express my thoughts and opinions to them, but ultimately it comes down to them and where it's at, and Shannon Wixom is the person that's there settling those discrepancies, and it's in one of our line items down here too, but anyway, that's what I see. Hopefully that answers that question.
It does. I was just trying to get an idea for those who might be wondering, what's my front yard gonna look like outside the window? And maybe just have that addressed a little bit. You did, so thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor, council member, police department. Congratulations and thank you all for your service. Very much appreciated. I would like to say thank you as a citizen of Harrisville. I very much appreciate the open forum.
Can you tell me your name?
My name is J.B. Hunnan, telephone 801-381-7914. I don't have any questions today, but I want to say thank you. I appreciate the forward and openness and look forward to coming to more meetings. I recognize that I have failed in that duty in the past and I will try to do better. Thank you.
Anyone else? I know there's others out there that have all sorts of comments. Maybe just scared to come up and talk. Okay. All right, we'll close the public comment. Next item on the agenda is the consent items. First one is approval of the meeting minutes for December the 9th and December 17th as presented. So.
Mayor, I do have one correction.
Okay.
And this is item 6B, line 3. And this talks about when I talk about the refund, the 2-year time frame is actually a year and a half. I think I could keep that year and a half up to 2 years.
Okay. Change.
I also have a correction, page 8, on the December 9th, under Jennie Knight's, it says that the city is required to get an accusation agent, and I think that means acquisition.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes with the 2 corrections. Okay,
we have a motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is to ratify the mayor's appointment for the mayor pro tem. And then the board member for Bona Vista Water Improvement District and Central Weaver Sewer. So my appointment for mayor pro tem is Jason Hadley. So do we need to vote on each one separately? So if I could have a motion to approve that in a second.
I make a motion to approve Jason Hadley as mayor pro tem.
I'll second. First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
So on the Bona Vista water improvement and the Central Weaver Sewer District, Mayor Tate was performing those before. I was just gonna assume those roles, so if that's okay with you, then I'd like to have you approve that. So if I could have a motion to do that. Second.
I'll make a motion to have, Mayor Shuman be on the Bona Vista Water Improvement District and the Central Weaver Sewer District.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Business items. We have the youth city council presentation. That's by Ian Green. Did I get that right? And then Sadie? Are you here out lonesome or you got something?
Oh, so it's just me and my sister tonight, our advisor.
Is her name Sadie?
Yeah.
Sadie, you wanna come up?
So my name is Ian Greenall. I've been part of the youth city council for 6 years now. And we just like come every month and talk about what activities we've done and what's coming up, so you guys are aware of it. And for the month of December, we helped out with the porch party here in Harrisville. It was sponsored by Pioneer Elementary. It was a food drive. And Sadie will share numbers about that later. And then our second activity was we helped out at the cabin with Santa Claus and the Grinch. And our job there was to help hand out donuts and hot chocolate. And then we had craft tables in the other room across the building. And we helped out with that.
Okay, I'm Sadie Greenhall, and then I also have some events. So the porch party, we assisted 440 people. And the donations we collected went to Pioneer Elementary and they gave that out to people. And then Community Christmas is an event we also went to, and we've gone for a couple of years. So there's different roles we do. One of the roles that we did was we helped the parents go shopping for their kids. So we just basically assisted them and told them like what they could get and just helped them like carry bags and stuff around. And then while they were doing that, some of us were upstairs watching the kids and making sure they were having fun until their parents were done. And at that event, we helped 2,100 kids and 680 families in need.
Nice. So one question I have for you, being the new mayor. Do I get involved with you guys? Is there meetings you have that I need to attend?
If you'd like to, we'd love to have you. We'll make sure that you're notified of when those meetings are. Usually it's the first Thursday of every month.
Okay.
And then coming up in March, we have a leadership conference up at Utah State University, and there's a gala dinner, and we'll make sure you're invited to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is approval of the 2026 city meeting schedule. Well, it has Jack's name by it. Want to go over that?
Yep, I can do that. So meeting schedule was included in the packet. We're following the same format we had previously. So the council meeting will be the second Tuesday of the month. Planning Commission will be the second Wednesday of the month, and project management will be the second Thursday of the month. We would hold additional meetings as necessary, but they are not scheduled. And Councilmember Montgomery pointed out to me today when he was going through the packet that our city ordinance says that we have 2 meetings. So we will work on that and bring it before you guys. That way it reflects what our current meetings need.
You're saying you're gonna work on changing the ordinance to go to the way we have it now, or going back to 2 meetings a month?
We change it to we bring it before you guys for approval for the 1 meeting and then a second meeting as needed.
Okay.
Some months, sure, as you guys came to several, like the elections, things like that, where we'd have 2 or 3. But we have found that we have not needed the meetings every other week like we did in the past. So it's ultimately your guys' decision. If you would like to have them, we can, but we have been making it through with a 1 meeting a month.
Do you have any questions or concerns?
Well, that was a concern I had, is just, how do we notify it when the ordinance says one thing and then posting says another thing, so. You can correct that, might be right.
Anything else? The meetings look okay to y'all? So I'm assuming we need a motion to approve those. So could we have a motion to approve the city meeting schedule for 2026?
I'll make the motion that we approve the meeting dates for the city council and planning commission as been reported. I'll maybe explain that, or as is written.
As presented.
As presented.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
With the pause, which we had.
Well, if they're gonna bring it before us, later, I don't know. So.
I think as it was presented, but
I think that's presented.
the next item on the agenda is a discussion of possible action to approve the right-of-way statements of just compensation, which that's it has to do with this document right here, your question. But anyway, and you heard about the open house we had earlier, and concerns and stuff that was in there. Open to discussions. Have a discussion away.
Well, could I just kind of, knowing that I've gone through an experience like this before with Larson Lane, I am concerned with the approaches taken to compensate. I know when things are said, well, we'll do this, and as we heard for the open house today, well, that'll be the responsibility of the property owner, we'll just pay them the money. It really never covers what is actually being done. And sometimes when it says in the project, well, we will do this, they won't do them. And the pressure then comes for the homeowner to try to do it in the time frame for them. And it can't be met. So then after the project is done, they want you to sign off when the work hasn't been done. And if you don't sign off, they would sign it off anyway, move on. So I think there's a real concern about saying, okay, these are the things that are going to be compensated for, but they actually happen. I think the best way for them to actually happen is to be contracted as part of the project. And I say, we'll give you the money, you find someone to do it. I really have a concern of the state's approach about that. And also I have a concern of what is the fair compensation? For example, if you have a house with a lot of trees that buffer the road noise event, all they're paying for is maybe a 2-inch caliper tree. They're not paying for what is the actual impact by moving those materials, that plant materials out. And I just think, you know, I know what the approach is. I know it's trying to make sure you keep it in budget and keep it minimal. But I just don't think it's fair to the property owners who receive an impact and don't get this compensation for that impact. I think there's other factors too that I think are further discussion besides just this item before us, but that's my concern about this item right here, is I don't think that it's a fair compensation because it only considers a very minimal thing. And it doesn't look at actual costs or actual impacts and how are those impacts mitigated.
So I have a question about this. Is this something that we're making decisions on at this point, or do we have to?
We don't have to make it. It's just possible actions. I think right now it's a discussion. You know, it really wouldn't be better if we table it.
So I know for just I have had a number of people reach out to me with concerns, and I was grateful to hear tonight that there's still action to happen as far as conversations and such that can happen between the property owners and the acquisition agent. I definitely think we need to be conscious, just as Ray mentions, that we help make sure that those are adequately taken care of, because it is a hardship. I think that one of the concerns that citizens have brought up are especially important, such as the person who is the closest to have 26 feet from the point of their house to get out. And I mean, that's a 18% grade or a pitch going out. That's a pretty steep thing to, if you have a trailer. for any such thing to, especially if it's loaded. So I think that hopefully there will be those concerns addressed to the adequate to the citizens concerned.
Can I ask who determines what's adequate though? We have to kind of, and I know I sound like a jerk. I'm just gonna say that. I know I sound that way. But we have to just, you know, buffer, where's that money coming from? Is it coming from the funds of the project? Is it, general, whatever, because I've been in multiple cities where it's right away and it's eminent domain, and they took it and got no compensation whatsoever with very little communication. So do I think that's fair? No, not at all. But who decides what is the fair compensation? Because we still have to be fair to the city as well. And I know that this has been a rural area for quite a while, and that change is very difficult and very frustrating. I said it before, I was hoping for a neighborhood across the street from my house, and I have a brush fund center, and nobody cared that I didn't want that. You know, we still have to be fair to the city and not just and think forward. I know that they were saying earlier, you know, can we vote on whether we want a bike lane? You're not the only ones that live in Harrisville City. And I would use that more walking and taking other, you know, if we had safe ways to do that. So, and we're looking forward, eventually those are gonna tie in other places. So I think we have to think about long-term as well and overall cost of the city. Again, I know I sound like a jerk.
Well, one of the concerns that I have is I look at this and say, yeah, it's easy to write a check and say we're done with it. But the biggest problem, not only on one side, being over here saying we're compensating for a 50-year-old tree that does a buffer. There's no way we can put that tree back in. So how can I go buy a tree and put it back in and then expect it to say that's fair compensation? So I know that's part of negotiation. But the other thing is that until things are more settled and the dust has got to be settled, this is just a start. I mean, there are other things that are coming in. We're already knowing we're gonna have to apply for more money because there isn't enough money here to cover compensation. So what is fair? And then also, where's the right of way? I mean, there are a lot of questions that were asked on this that need to be dust settled. So before we start shelling out money and saying, let's reimburse, let's find out exactly on a one-on-one basis, which I think that's one of the ways it has to happen, what it is, and it needs to be itemized and then it can be ticketed. And what is fair? Yeah, there needs to be somebody in the room that is going to mitigate and somebody in the negotiator. Because there's some things we can't replace. It just is impossible to replace. So I think there is concern. Obviously, tabling, I think, is the best way to go. But this is just a start and it needs to be added in. And on a one-on-one basis, then we decide that.
So when you say one-on-one, are you saying that we do something differently case by case? Or because if somebody's neighbor got something different than they did,
I know
that causes issues as well. We have to have some kind of logistical measuring tool.
How do we come up with these numbers? We did that.
Yeah,
So there's
great question.
There's some state guidelines that come out on what they compensate for based off of certain criteria. And I suspect that that's not like completely black. I think there's a lot of gray in there. And so then it's just like Marvin Farrell on his property, he's got a welded steel fence in there that costs X amount of dollars, where another person may have a farm fence with barbed wire and net, which is a whole lot less expensive. And I think, as I was listening to it, is that there's still a lot of confusion regarding the surveying. And I think that the surveyors that would be involved in all this need to be there to answer a question, because I can tell you, as the mayor, I can't go and answer where that line is, because I'm not a professional surveyor. And I can't tell them where that property line was and how they came up with the information. And ultimately, I think those have to be answered before we come to the idea of compensation on what it's gonna take to redo their driveway or put a tree in, or how that works. And
so we'll put this list together. Okay, that's what I was referring to here. Shannon's the one, obviously, she's gonna be a key player in this.
Correct.
That's all I'm saying.
And she did say today in the meeting that she would be happy to sit down with them and discuss the issues that they have at hand, but I know there's guidelines that they have. I know when Highway 89 came in and they raised my elevation on the backside of my property somewhere around 6 or 7 feet. You know, they came and approached me about it, and I mean, my experience with it was pretty straightforward, and they compensated me, and they brought in a whole bunch of fill, because I didn't like how the slope was, and so I can say my neighbor didn't do that, but that's not my fault, is because I was involved in that part of it with the state. So, but I can tell you, I'm not comfortable moving ahead right now with that, I'm not the voter.
No, I agree that, because if we have different surveyors saying different things, we need to get back to what we actually are looking at and what we're using as the tool, because I know that independent surveyors, you work for the person who pays you, and you're gonna do what's beneficial for that person. So we have to actually have a survey that is accurate and shows the plat and plot and all the fun things, accurately.
It goes back to what Laura was saying as far as easements. You have the big question on easements. I mean, that's something that's in the middle of all this too, before the compensation needed to be recognized. Okay.
Okay. We have a motion to the table. I'll make a motion in favor. Second that. We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Everybody in favor? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the committee discussion. I asked to have this one on there just because I wanted to bring out some things about things I've been thinking about. And one of the things I'd like to see us do, and we have the America 250, did I get that right? Coming up. And it would be nice to have a really nice city festival. And I'm calling it a city festival. It's been called all sorts of things over the years. But I really like to see it a city festival, and I'd like to see all age groups be involved in it. And it'd be nice to have community members from the city, meaning volunteers, of citizens. So any of you want to volunteer for that committee, let me know. But, and then there's other committees that potentially could be there. And I mean, I looked up a few just to get some bearings, and things like a Parks and Recreation Committee that can help with Brian Fife with what goes on with the parks and what we can do to make them better for the residents of the city. So you got city input, like city, not just city employees or the voting people, but the actual residents there throwing out the ideas too. Of course, there's the youth city council, but it's already in place. There's the board of adjustments. There's the community events and beautification committees. There could be that side of it. I happened to have some conversation with Brian about some things about cleaning up things in the city. So I had a really good meeting with Jennie and Brian and Chief Wilson on the 2nd. I really bored them to tears. I was here for 5.5 hours. But we had some good meetings, and I really appreciate their input. But this is nothing more than to plant a seed for you guys to start looking at what potential committees that we could put in that are volunteers for residents. And then how it is that the city council can be involved more. And now I know there's some restrictions that's recommended from legal that we shouldn't have city councilmen associated with the planning commission, but there's other areas where you can. And I know Grover talked to me the other day about he said to me, he didn't tell me any particular committee, but he said something to the fact is, if there's anything I can do, any committee that I can serve on, let me know. Well, Grover, I'm here saying, tell me what committees you want to work on.
Which foot did I just stick out with? But right now, That's a voting question.
Well, it is, and I don't know that you can have the answer
No,
today.
Right now, I serve on the mosquito abatement board. I've done it for several years and I've enjoyed it. And when there's a need to report, I'll be happy to report on it. And we have something to report. We talked about the America 250. Jason is very much wanting to be involved, and I'm saying that wanting because that was her campaign speech, to be involved with getting citizens and residents going. So the city festival can be something that could be a launch into other things that involve. I think being involved, and one of the things that I remember back when all of a sudden the city council took a back step, had to do with legality of being involved and having a lot of volunteers be involved, and all of a sudden we had to become city employees. And they had to be registered, they had to have background checks and this, just to serve on this, and all of a sudden it just kind of fractured. So as we approach this, I want to make sure we're doing it in a way that we get people involved, but at the same time, it doesn't fall on the burden. I know when it fell on the burden of one of the city council members back when we were having Heritage Days, it fell apart because it just didn't happen. It wasn't communicated good. So I'm more than happy to support what you would like me to do. I did a project management meeting the other day, thoroughly enjoyed that, and and saw some very good interaction going on with the developers and the city to make sure that the city progresses in the right direction with development, which is a positive thing for the city. It was put to be one way. You can stand in the way of where the stream's coming. Now you can go like this, but that's not going to stop the stream. So you've got to manage it, you've got to direct it. And that's all I'm saying, Roger, where you love it. Okay? You got 2 years.
Well, one thing regarding the festival thing, I happen to have, believe it or not, I have more than one friend, but there's a friend of mine that lives up in North Ogden. He was actually here tonight, him and his wife, and a few years ago during the pandemic, the North Ogden Cherry Days, did I get that right? Cherry Days was in jeopardy of them not happening. And the group of residents got together and says, no, we gotta have Cherry Days. And I get that sometimes you can have liability, man, you have liability when you walk out the door, but at the end of the day, it ended up being one of the most successful Cherry Days they ever had because of the residents that got involved. And I think that, trying to get, getting residents involved, they can start looking at the activities that they have and all the other stuff versus, just throwing out something from what I believe it is. Cause I'm telling you, I'm not a very good partier. And maybe if you got me drunk, I might be able to do it, but I haven't been drunk, I don't think ever in my life. So, but at the end of the day, I would like to see us have a really meaningful festival for the city, both celebrating America 250 and having other things. And then moving past, my request to you guys would be, think about things how people can serve and what you see, because you guys are all smart people. How do you see people being able to serve? Is there committees that we can try to establish? Will we be 100% successful in those committees? I don't know. But if I don't try, then I haven't tried done my job. Okay. So by the next meeting we have, if you could come back with some other feedback about what those committees might look like and ideas, thoughts, what you see as councilman of the city and councilwomen. You see needs in the city, so that, is that an inappropriate comment about councilwoman?
I wasn't offended.
No, sometimes, so I don't mean to be offensive, but at the end of the day, I'd just like to see some thoughts from you guys on that. Jason?
Just a real quick question with the America 250, do we have, Jenny, is there any guidelines as far as when that's to take place, or is that up to the city?
as I've understood it, it almost sounds like it's Independence Day. Is that right?
It's certainly associated with Independence Day. The staff's intention of bringing it before this body in December was to apply for grant money that was available. We didn't receive that. So the next step we need to meet is who's going to be on that committee and what that celebration looks like. Certainly they're gearing it towards the 4th of July, but if it's not exactly on that day, I think that they will accept that.
Because one of the thoughts, and thank you for answering that, because one of the thoughts that has come to my mind is our next meeting is February. If we're going to take till March, that gives 4 months to execute. I almost feel like we need to just make an assumption that that committee is going to exist.
Yeah.
And start to identify people by next meeting. That would be my recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other thoughts you guys have? One of the things that just maybe threw out there, I definitely feel that idea of a Parks and Recreation Committee would be good. I think that citizen involvement to help the staff say, okay, what are the needs? They can help give support to then what happens in the park. And I also think another thing is, maybe there's a citizens advisory committee on the budget. I mean, what would be better to have citizens involved, knowing what your budget is, or what the police budget is for that, and be advocates, and be able to say, okay, when it comes budget time, we've also been involved with the things we think are important. To have that dialogue, because I think a lot of people just don't know what's going on. If they get more involved and understand the needs, what things that additional support helps us to know where to go.
Okay. One thought that I was having, and would probably fall a little bit under Parks and Recreation. I look back over the years, and of course, the Fall Festival was the big deal. And I know it's driven 2 degrees of fundraiser by, Pioneer Elementary. But at the same time, I've, been aware of other things that are happening in other cities. And so my point is going out and finding out what is successful in other cities as far as some of their activities. One that I found out that is out at, I want to say West Point. That city?
West Haven.
No, I'm talking about the inside of Syracuse.
Oh, you're probably close with West Point.
Yeah, West Point. And one of the things that they do is they have an enclosed area, but for years they have had a pumpkin walk where everybody carves pumpkins and then puts them out. And it's one of those things where I had some friends that they literally sit down and are carving pumpkins for a month. And then right the last we'll put the face on and then set it out. And it's become quite a tradition out in West Point. But something like that is generated. My point is, if we find something that we have and build upon what we've got, then I think then it becomes something that becomes our own. The challenges that we've had, honestly, with having Heritage Days is because we're wedged between Roy and Cherry Days and Pleasant View of something happening every month. Where do you put Harrisville? And the other part of the background is that a fair. And so we were wedged in within 2 weeks of having what we would call Heritage Days. And so timing is one of the big things. And so finding the spot that is going to be something that we all participate in is part of that. Great ideas. I think there's a lot of things that people would volunteer to music festivals or other things that are going on. I mean, yeah, I can dream all night. I've got some good dreams. And it costs money, but that's okay.
Well, I think, one of the things talking about the Fall Festival, that this is the first year I participated in it. And I participated in it because I was running for mayor in full disclosure. But one of the things that kind of was interesting to me was the majority of the people that I talked to as they were coming down weren't even from Harrisville. So they were from married Slaterville, or they were from somebody else. And yet, now maybe when you go back 50 years when I attended Pioneer Elementary was the main elementary school for Harrisville. But we have Greenwood Elementary, and we have the Majestic Elementary on the other side, and so those kids are also part of our city, and I wanna make sure that we're, you know, whatever the event is, that it's involved with all those, and even, we even have some kids that live nearby that go to the Ogden City schools, right? So, that's my struggle with just keeping it around a fundraiser for an elementary school that's not even in our city. So anyway,
I make another comment.
Yeah.
Also in the YCC. New city council has been exploding over the last several years. Part of the things that they're doing in new city council is that they're in a local. They're now working with other cities as the events get bigger and they keep together. So when we're talking about thousands of people that they work with, you have to say it's not just Harrisville, but it's all the cities, it's Sladeville, it's, you know, Plain City, it's North Austin. And the kids about the idea of how they work together. There is a lot that can happen. And that's just something I think we have to keep in mind as we're doing this. When you started following the elementaries, the junior highs that are both in our cities, then yeah, that disperses out, but all of a sudden it also gives us a draw of people who come to learnings.
well, Jason brought up a good point. Do we want to try to get somebody that at least to start heading up the committee for the activities at this meeting, or do we want to wait till next meeting?
I think we need to go ahead and get it started. It's something here, we already have funding for it. But it'll be something we need to get started on.
Somebody want to nominate a councilman that would help kind of lead the charge?
You're asking a question and we want to stab each other in the back.
That's what Jason's name up. Seems like.
I'll go with you up there.
So Jason's he's got volunteered. Anybody else?
I'll second Jason.
What's that?
I'll second Jason.
Second, Jason, all in favor? Aye. Okay, I'm gonna just have Jason start that, okay? So let me know where I can help. And then, but that's really the main part of that discussion, and I think we covered it all. So unless you have something else, I'll move on. Okay?
Well, I just had one question, and I know I don't know where to put this. I noticed with the Utah League of Cities and Towns, that with the legislative policy committee, Harrisville is noted as having two people. One is no longer with the city. And we're allowed to have 3 voting members on that, Jenny's one. But Bill Morris is listed as the other Harrisville voting member for the policy committee for Harrisville. And I think we ought to have someone else on that legislative committee to at least be involved, know what's going on. They help vote as far as where the league goes on the legislative stuff. And I guess I'm throwing my name out there. I've done that for years, looking at all the legislative bills, writing quick memos, that's support or not support, which type of thing. But I think we need to make a correction on the register of who Harrisville has as a representative.
Okay.
Like I said, there's be up to 3 people.
You just contact them and put that on.
I'll follow up on that. Thank you, Councilmember Montgomery. I know I emailed them a time quite a while ago, and asked for that to be corrected, so
Yeah,
it's still
still on
showing
track.
that. I'll follow up with them on that. It's
We need to make that by the 26th, we need to have, do any of the payments, add that to the league.
And then we're supposed to have 3.
You can have up to 3.
Yeah, because they will actually attend during the legislative session. In this month.
So when you volunteer for that, then you have to go down to the legislative session.
They hold weekly meetings, the LPC during the legislative session, and they are online meetings. We had one yesterday that I attended, but yes, we typically have as many as that are available. Try to have those slots filled.
Well, Greg's put his name out there for it. I'd be happy to do it if you think Jason wants to do that too.
I was going to second.
So we're gonna have Kathy?
Karen.
Karen, sorry. Karen. So we have Greg and then. So,
It would be, I think Jenny's already on there.
Yeah.
Not volunteering.
no, so it'll be Jenny, Greg and Karen. Does that work? Okay,
Do we need a motion for that?
Sure.
sure.
And I'll make a motion that we appoint Greg, Karen, and Jenny serve as our Utah League of Cities and Towns legislative reps.
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll move on. Anything else we need to get covered before we move on? Is there any other committees that need to get assigned?
I do have one, Mr. Mayor, for the Healthy Utah designation. So this is more just a pre-submittal for our designation, but it's been Planning Commissioner Chad Holbrook has been the chair of that committee. If you want him to continue in that position and to hold the committee meeting, that needs to take place by March, actually.
I'm okay with Chad continuing on that, or you?
He's very passionate about it.
May I ask what that entails?
Yes, there's certain strategies the city has to adopt to meet the Healthy Utah standards. I believe we have to come up with a new strategy to continue our redesignation. We had certain benchmarks we had to meet to receive the award in the first place, and I think we have to come up with a new one. I will double check with the staff member that's assigned over that, but if you'd like to chat to continue that role, and we'll get that moving forward.
Okay.
I was just wondering what kind of goals and.
So I know our community guard met one of those benchmarks. We conducted a walkability audit that also met that. The third one leaves me. But I know there were a couple of benchmarks that we met. It was 3 years designation, so it's been 3 years since we got it. Thank you.
We have a motion to keep Chad in as the committee member for that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for that discussion. So now this is the mayor council follow-up. The first item on there is rules of procedure, and I know Greg put some information together on that. So if it's okay, I'm gonna have Greg kind of present this. Let me get my note.
Okay. So one of the things that I heard as I was running, and I think both Mayor and Jason heard, was the lack of public input into the general discussions of items, that the items are often voted on and then discussions take place afterwards. And that seems to be a kind of a backwards way to get to make a decision made when you don't hear from all aspects. And so one of the things I started to take a look at was, and this was in the Utah League of Cities little booklet, some of us got, was talking about the aspect of having adopted procedures regarding meetings. And when I asked Jenny about it, I said that was on the list to do, but other things sort of taking time in that way. But I think it'd be important for the council to take a look and say, we need to come up with meetings with procedure and conduct policy. So to be adopted either by resolution or ordinance or that. Presently in the city's ordinance, we have a little title in 105.050 called meetings, procedures, and conduct, but it does not really deal with how you handle a meeting. How do you deal with different procedures? It just says, this is how you do voting, and this is when you meet.
So there is the resolution number 2011-12.
Okay, so that's something
That was something after you submitted your paper, Jenny sent that over to me. That she was able to find this.
Okay.
So this was passed in We look for the last date on it. The 25th of October, 2011.
So that would have been done to meet state law that took place at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I mean, so there was some stuff in place for it. So,
So the question I have is, you ought to, as a council, take a look and see if we, with that now, do we need to do any modifications? Are we following this? How is it done? I don't know if anyone has seen this. Okay. And I think there's several questions about how do we proceed to get all the information we can when we make a decision. And what process should that take? I think sometimes there's a confusion or aspect that the public hearing is the same that really takes the place of all public comment or public input. And really, a public hearing is a defined requirement, and there's certain provisions, whether you're adopting an ordinance or doing a rezoning. The state law says, okay, you need a whole public hearing on this thing. But the state law then is really kind of, each community come up with their own standard of how do you look at public input for decision making or public comment. Public comment is probably different than public input. Public comment is on general concerns you might have with the city. The public input is on a specific agenda item and asking for those thoughts and ideas before a vote is taken. I don't know if others have been in other jurisdictions to see how their meetings are conducted in that. But I think the way Harrisville does it is a little bit different than most communities that I have been involved with in terms of how we proceed in each item. When do we allow the public to give a comment? Who do we make responsible for presenting the project? Is the staff the presenter or is the petitioner the presenter? Where do we fit in with the planning commission's recommendation? Who presents that? Is it the planning commission chair or is it staff presenting what that? Are those things that would be valuable to get information? We make a decision. So I think it's important to just have some discussion about what that format is and what the benefits are of doing it that way in the format. I know in the past I've heard concerns about well, it just takes a long time. That's just kind of what happens. City government takes time. But I think to be informed, we need to look at all the info we get. So there may even be a lot of thought, not thought of.
so I had in the early part of December, I had a meeting with all of the new mayors and the old mayors in Weaver County. It was during our city council meeting here. And so I asked some input from a lot of the mayors that have been in for a while, like the Riverdale city mayor, Mayor Porter from South Ogden, Mayor Allen from Washington Terrace. You know, this is you were talking, Greg, the comments that I was getting from the residents or constituents of Harrisville was that they want to feel like they're heard, right? They want to feel like the decision isn't made before you get there. So the recommendation to a lot of them, and I even brought this up in the League of Cities and Towns meeting I attended. And that one, you know, some of the same information was come back. You can move it to the beginning of the meeting, it doesn't have to be at the end of the meeting. And try to respond to those. Now, the danger behind that is how you respond and who responds. And I've taken the step right now to say myself will respond to them or the city administrator. That's to try to keep from having too many fires and fire to people. Not to say that I'm going to answer every one of their questions perfect, but I think some response is better than no response. And so we want to make sure we're responsive to the people that we're elected by, that we serve, so that they know where we're at and why we're where we're at, instead of having people leave the meeting going, I don't even know why I wasted my time coming, because I'm here to tell you that was a huge thing. And all the people that talked to me while I was running it just seemed worthless to come in and talk, and I want them to feel heard. And I want to have them feel that their voice is important. And so my first step was to move it to the beginning. And I'll try to answer those questions out. And then, the other one comment that I was going to bring up was pretty much every single mayor that I spoke with, with the exception of Mayor Walpole from Ogden Valley, she's brand new in it, so. But was that they're not afraid to table the decision until the next time, period. And in most cases, if I remember right, it was Mayor Allen said, I automatically figure we're gonna have it come in. I think Russ Porter said the same thing. We're gonna table that discussion until the next time, just so that every information that you had come in during that public hearing, that you can all weigh in, you can all take it in, absorb what people said, and go, there was a lot of comment about this and that before you make the final decision. So anyway, that was one thing that a lot of them said, we just table until the next time. We don't rush it through just to rush it through. So anyway, I can't talk, so.
There are other thoughts. I mean, I just throw out what I feel.
No, that's actually something we had addressed before, but again, it was Mayor's discretion, and that's what she had chosen to continue, and so that's what we supported. And I don't have a problem moving them to the beginning, because I think that is fair. If they have something to say, it's valuable, and we need to have that as part of the discussion, in my opinion. So I totally support that, and that was actually going to be one of the questions I asked you, is during that time, is it just you who was able to respond? Like,
So we have,
Gary, I had something that I didn't want to jump in and be out of line, so.
So me and Jenny talked about that on one of the days, it was one of them, we discussed it, and there's some potential liability where everybody starts diving into it. And so at this point, we just chose to do this, and I can tell you pretty much every single mayor that is out there that I talked to, some of them I talked to at the WACOG meeting, some I talked to at the other meeting, they were the same way. Either I respond to them as a mayor, or the city administrator responds to it, and then we communicate with each other, myself and Jenny, on where those responses are. Now, I've not been as good as Jenny has about responding, because I'm gonna work on it, make it better, so that she has the information that I've given, and she's given me the information she's given. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Okay?
That's
Not that you don't have the
No, that's
capability to
perfect.
reply, so if you have a comment and you want to have me relay it, just let me know what it is and then try to relay that. Okay?
One thought, just as you talk, just thinking about some of the things that I've seen happen is that, so you've got a discussion item, and you ask for public input on that item because there's been a presentation to understand what's going on. The council asks questions to try to get answers to better understand. The public then has an opportunity to give their thoughts, then comes back to the council for discussion. And that sometimes there may be other questions that the council wants to ask, and it may be appropriate saying, I'm asking a specific question to an individual who's made a comment, want to get an understanding of that, and being able to allow that to happen, knowing it's not opening up to now another round of discussion, but say, I have a question I want an answer. Give me, again, where you're coming from. And not a debate back and forth, but just I want to understand. So that then as we come back, there's again, that understanding, people again have felt they've had input. And can see where the discussion's going after that point, after questions are asked. And sometimes I think we've been afraid in times past, and I think it's just again, to control a meeting. Of being able to ask questions to people. Not that we have to then respond to their questions, we're asking to get more input. And I think that's that balance you talk about, but it's not a free-for-all, but it's saying, I value the input. I need that to help me in making a decision.
Okay. Hey, what I'll do is, I'm gonna not give you an answer about that today. I think I'm gonna think about it and contemplate it and talk to some people. And come up with an educated decision, because I don't have that educated right now. Okay? If that's okay.
I think the only thing that keeps coming in the middle of this is a lot of times when you have public hearings, you have an agenda item that needs to be moved on. So I think we need to look at the timing matter for when certain things have to be taken care of. So that when they're an open public hearing meeting, it falls into the space where if you want to take a look, you have time to talk about it. If you don't, then that puts a hardship on the city because they have state mandates that they are required to do by law. And if they're not, then it falls back and penalizes us. So in this discussion, it's nice to say we're going to table that, but let's make sure we're not cutting off our noses to spite our faces because we're not following state laws where we have to do those things. Budgets, one thing, this and this and this. So.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable until we table something when it's prudent to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and yet I don't want it to be, if there's a measure that's had multiple meetings on, and you already have information, that's one thing. But if we're just trying to rush it through for some reason, I won't bring anybody's particular case into play here, but if we're just trying to get it through, I think we want to make sure we've held to the standard of whatever the state law is. And if we have to table, then I think we could move it back to
That could be
where
part of
that
these
is.
policies and procedures.
What's that?
That could be part of the adopted policy and procedures.
Correct.
And
So, and I read that policy and procedure about a week ago. And I unfortunately don't remember everything I read, so. But anyway, you can all take that number and look at it and then read it and see what's already there. Okay?
And then one comment maybe on that, I'm sure they don't include how you handle electronic meetings. In 2011.
Yeah,
sure
well,
that was,
we didn't have Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
We got a few Zoom people up here right now.
They do have a policy talking about, that we adopt what the state uses for and ratify what they do as far as electronic meetings. So we do have something, we do have something in place.
So, okay. Yeah, that's 20-05. Is this a copy? Okay, is there any other discussion we want to have on that, or? There was another item, Greg, that you submitted. I don't know if you want to try to talk a little bit about it, or do we want to move that to another day, or?
It is just information, it's not for any discussion of that, it's something I want to share. With the council, just as I went about, and I like to investigate things like that, with just some thoughts I have about our community. And
Did you all get this from Greg? You know, I did go through it today, and it is good information. So just, when you get a moment, go through it, look at it. You might help us out. Okay. I'm gonna be a little bit bold here for a second. You would never know me to be bold, have you? So I had a meeting with R&O Construction, Jennie, and Kevin, the architect on the new building. And I probably set them off a little bit. I'm gonna have to go buy them lunch or something that time I'm on it. But what my interest was in it was one, as the mayor and just the things that I ran on and things that I want to try to do is control spending and costs in the budget. I wasn't totally in favor of the new building being built. So I wanted to find out how much it was gonna cost to cancel the building. Okay, so I sat down with them, Arno and Kevin Laylock, is that right? I sat down with them and asked them to put together some numbers. This is probably futile at best in one sense to talk about. I think it's important too to see how far the city can get themselves into something and not have the ability to get out. And then I'll finish with some other stuff that I talked with Jill up and Jennie about. And that was, and I'll just go over the numbers really quick. Okay.
Can you turn your mic up, please?
Gary, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So there's several different factors that come into place when we have a project like this. First, there's the bond issue, where we took out a bond. The bond was for $12 million. That $12 million bond, if we cancel the project, there's a payback fee on that. Okay? That particular bond fee is $3,901.82 or $82.25. Okay, so that's the first thing. R&O construction, from the time, if I was able to get all of the council committed to cancel the project, wouldn't be till February the 11th. Okay. We'd be at $2,300,000 that we'd have to pay R&O construction. The architect fee, $620,000. So we would have to pay $6,821,82 for $821,082.25. I don't expect y'all to remember that. What you can do is remember it's about $7 million. The next factor that came into play, which wasn't on this paper, is that we have a government grant for $2 million for the city office, public safety. If you don't build it, you have to pay the $2 million back, right? So with all that said, let's say that at the end of the day, we have $8 million that's sitting there. We can build the building. And when we're all done, the budget right now is going to be about $10,500,000 approximately. So you're going to be about $10,500,000, which will be the end bond amount. Not the $12 million. The bond will be restructured at that point, and we'll be able to, that's what we'll be paying up. The next thing is that I asked about how we're paying for it. To the city's credit, which I wasn't sure because it didn't seem like we could ever get a real good answer. The current public works building, we had an $8.5 million expense. We currently owe $5,500,000 roughly. And we haven't even been occupied for a year. So we're making payments back on that. That particular bond is being paid off of impact fees. So again, all those people that are getting possibly hooked for a PID might get hooked they're going to get hooked for the impact fee too, which is okay. Or anybody else. I think the impact fee go to any construction Or is it just new construction, like meaning, is it anything, like if I build a building, then do I pay an impact fee for that or not?
So the impact fee is assessed according to a study. We have to identify projects that the impact fees go towards.
Okay,
And then impact fees are charged at the time to connect to the utility. So stormwater.
so if you're not
usually at the
connected
building
to
permit.
the- anyway, that building's being paid with some impact. Okay, looking at the staff from the city did a really great job of helping educate me on all of the new developments. We have 9, right? New developments. Come on, Jenny. I think there's about 9. If I'm off by one, I'm not gonna be too far off. But roughly, probably somewhere around 800 residents, 800 new homes that's already approved and in place. So I feel pretty confident there's plenty of money there to take care of that building. The new office / public safety building is paid for with property taxes, or not property taxes, but sales taxes. Okay? The city will own the building. And really, the thing that's in jeopardy is the sales taxes that we bring into the city. So it doesn't go against property taxes that any of the residents pay. It goes against the sales tax. Okay? So everybody buy on Amazon, put your name as Harrisville on there. Okay? But anyway, looking at how much revenue we bring in for sales tax, looking at what the payment is on the potential bond, there's enough money there to be able to meet those needs. Okay, so that was my finding on that. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, I'm gonna move on.
Can I just say that I appreciate you looking through that. That's something that we try really hard to make sure, and I'm sorry that didn't get conveyed appropriately. But when you made public comments about giving your credit card and we ran up the bill and said, hey, was a little offensive and demeaning to those of us who have done some research. And so I appreciate that you on that stuff.
Well, I think that goes back to, our ability to communicate back what information. And I had a conversation with Chief Jackson, or Chief Wilson. I am getting close to almost 65. So, but another frustrating point that I had as a resident was that if you submit something in the code enforcement, that you don't get a response, 0, right? And so I did bring that up with Chief Wilson, and he was gonna take care of that for me. Because I'm not asking you to go back, I'm not asking anybody to go back and say, well, I made a complaint against Greg Montgomery, and I wanna know what all the action is that went on. All I wanna know is, I submitted a claim. And I would just like to know that he got it. Right? Just send me a response back that says, thank you for the comment, and I'm glad I did get it, and we'll take appropriate action. That's all I needed to know, right? But to get nothing was always a little frustrating. So, thank you, Chief Wilson, for helping me with that. Sorry, anything else? You guys have any other comments? I don't mean to take up the meeting, but it is my meeting.
Would you mind if I was coming for Gary? And where to find wages and things like that? And you can say, I might do that.
I would recommend that you.
How about
Staff and mayor out.
How about we do this? We'll talk about it later and then we can decide. That'll be great. Good.
So one of the things that maybe just bring up based on the open house earlier, is where we go from here. And the reason I bring that up is I think there are a lot of questions brought up. And I don't know that all the answers were really explored. I think one of the things that happened with it, you know, here's this road design. Our city standards say the road design looks something different than what's being proposed. Our city standard for a collector street is much smaller than what's being proposed. So what drives the change of design from the city standard to the proposed standard, which takes out more property and gives the city more maintenance costs over the life?
Well,
There.
I wish I could answer that for you.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of some questions that I just have out there, but.
Yeah, and I think as I was going, listening what was going on there. I think it would be appropriate if I, as the mayor, reach out to those people involved in the design process. And some of these architects or the surveyors that are being doing this. I would like to know where all those things were changed to, because it was pretty confusing. And in one sense, I was thinking, well, the 99-foot right of way's been there for a while. And yet then the other side of it sounds like maybe it hadn't been there for a while, but I would like to know better for myself where that's at. And be able to clarify that. I think that also that conversation that I would have with them would also say, you know what, let's get together, let's figure out what we can do, to communicate where this is with the residents, because I don't think it should be thrown down their throat by any means, just because we decide we're gonna make it a little bigger.
Well, I'd like to see if there's an opportunity for them to come to us and we can talk about that.
Okay.
Because I have questions, you know, like.
Sure.
You know, just really quickly, I mean, where they're coming from is an 1885 territorial act that established state roads. And they're correct, and the right of way was 799 feet. But it wasn't acquired property or dedicated, saying here's a right of way. By 1885, many of the farmers had already claimed all that land. And in order to help get us to statehood, the plan had to be a survey of all territorial roads, so that'd be part of statehood. But the question is, okay, that got established, but a right of way versus a title to the road are two different things. One says I have right of access, and in a district law court in 2010, if the city couldn't provide title to the property, the judge ruled it's only what is being utilized that's the real right of access. Because you can't provide title, so by a prescriptive easement, now you've gained this amount of access. And so, you know, those are questions because, okay, it says 99 foot in the 1885 territorial act. But what did that do of ownerships? Because I think those are questions out there. But then the other question is, what is looked at in terms of context sensitive design? What is looked at in terms of you've got a bottleneck on the road, but the railroad, you're not going to change that width. So what does it gain by doing the other widths? Things, are there ways to accomplish same goals? Still meet the traffic movements.
You know who all those people are?
I'm sorry, I'll have to define who all those people are.
Well, like they talked about multiple surveyors
Sure.
that have come in. I believe there was a couple UDOT representatives here today.
So those are the engineers, they're
Oh, they're
consultants,
just-
they're UDOT consultants, they're through ESI, and they're assigned to this
So
project.
do we know who these
Surveyors,
people is that can
certainly.
come and answer those questions?
Certainly, we can identify the people that are working on the city's project, yes, but the surveyors that may have been referenced and the residents, obviously, we wouldn't have that.
I mean, just on project itself.
Right, but we do have access to the information that was used for the city's project, yes.
Well,
And again, even in the road design, because I think you can still achieve it with a lot less pavement that then is our maintenance for the rest of our life.
Right.
And still have a very functioning road to meet that.
So,
Sorry, is this covering things that we tabled already?
No, that's not on that.
no,
That's fine, at the compensation.
Oh, I see.
This is just saying what we heard there. So we can understand, ask questions to the construction team or the design team.
So your real question is, where do we go from here?
Yeah, do we have an opportunity to look at some design modifications? Not to say let's stop the project, but other design accommodations.
well, I think we can go to February, right? And, but I think we can make it in February the 10th and have them come to that meeting and have you discuss it.
Yeah.
So let's put that down. See if we can get them.
More package, more makes it easy. Yeah, like
Okay.
one. That's really what you're talking about here.
Right.
Cause I know like during that, the open house, you know, up here, we didn't have a lot of ability to ask the questions that the public was asking, so probably a good idea to have them come back then before we get too far. Okay. We actually agenda item. Yeah, I believe so. Because we're not gonna do any business on
That's why I know. Maybe an easy way to just have a work session to get more information. Probably can attend that.
it. Okay.
Sorry. We have a work session, the public can attend that, but that way information can be given back to the city of what needs to be done on this. And that way it makes it easier to get direction. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Any other discussion items we have on the mayor council follow-up? Mr. Grover, you said you talked about your project planning meeting the other day.
Yeah, the mosquito bait being is, at its best in the low, because the mosquitoes have gone bad for most people. But, one of the individuals up in North Arlington was talking about, their, storytelling time. And she wanted to make sure we announce that in each of the cities, that, in information, so I don't know where it is, so just passing information on that. If people want to know more about the storytelling time in North Ogden, it's apparently a fun activity. But, yeah, mosquito abatement will be canceled for February. No agenda items. And, in city management, I was very impressed with the communication that was going on with our developers and with city staff. I look at it as a well-oiled machine, and the communication was there to help through, especially when they were starting to talk a lot of affordable housing, and a lot of things that was going on there. And that to me was, from what I could observe, was a real helpful to the developers to try to get through what changes we're looking at this. So that's my report.
Thank you. I know, our city planning commission, we need two planning commissioners. I think it's on our website. We need to get two vacancies. So if you know anybody that would like, or anybody out there would like to be on the planning commission, let me know. I could probably help you with that. So, or if you guys know somebody you think would be good in there, let them know that. Okay, anything else, Greg? Do you have anything?
Well, maybe just a question of how to do certain things. I've got lots of questions, but I don't want to take all night doing that, but, what is the best procedure? How would you think people best, raise some things and so we can have some discussion or get a sense of, for example, that's some things I'd like to have a planning commission. How do we handle them from? I've got other questions.
I was feeling very lucky to make it today to conduct this meeting. But
I can actually answer that.
Yes.
If you have ideas or things that you want staff and or the planning commission to look at, you need to discuss it in this meeting, and 3 council members need to direct Jenny to either work on it or staff to work on it, or to send it to the planning commission. That
Thank
should be
you.
3 city council.
Okay.
thank you.
I'll do
Anything else? Okay, let's move to the next item. So our next item is a closed executive session And it's to discuss the purposes under UCA 52-4-205 1C, and it's a strategy session to discuss pending or reasonable imminent litigation. So, supposedly close to that executive session. I don't know.
Well, we.
This, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has to be made by motion, and please read the reason we're going into closed session, and it is a roll call vote.
I'll make the motion then, that we entered, close the executive session, for the purpose of citing the UCA 52-4-205-1C. Strategy session to discuss pending or reasonable imminent litigation.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second, all in favor? Roll call. Roll call vote. So, Councilmember Wilhelmsen?
Yes.
Councilmember Christensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bossett?
Yes.
Councilmember Hadley?
Yes.
And Councilmember Montgomery?
Yes.
So we will now go into a closed session.
Nope, we just need to motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
So we're done.
Make a motion to adjourn the city council.
Second.
See, you guys on top.